Let's go.
All right. All right, it looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome once again to another Conqueror's Clash. I see a lot of familiar faces in chat, a lot of the homies, Atlas, AMAC. I hope a lot of Threevils fans are coming here too. And before we get into that, I do want to first introduce our guest for the evening, the man, the myth, the legend himself, 330 Threevil. Threevil, the man who can theorize like a machine. I'm so happy to have you here, bro. It is an absolute honor. I've been watching your videos ever since the Blackbeard was an octopus one. I've been keeping up with your channel, and it's great to have you here for a one-on-one. I feel like we've been talking about making this happen for a while, so I'm just glad that we finally have come together today for this stream. So I just want to welcome Threevil. W's in the chat for him. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Yo, it's great to be here, man. And you've been, I understand that you realize your position. You've been making like crazy videos. You have like the infamous video about like what the ancient kingdom's called. And I even remember we were on that stream together, and I was like, I'm hearing them out. How do I feel about it? And I'm the kind of person, I like to let things marinate. And your theory about the ancient kingdom being called the One Piece, man, sheesh, that's some heat right there, bro.
Thank you, man.
I'm so happy to be here with
Awesome.
someone so open-minded like yourself.
Yo, man, I appreciate that, and I just want to say that it goes both ways. I think I've seen at least 2 or 3 of your videos now that legit had me like floored with the connections that you made, and especially the Eastern Asian, like the mythological and religious connections that you bring into your theories. I think is an element that's sorely missing from a lot of theories in One Piece. And I specifically think that it's because of how important that is to the culture of Japan, and that it's definitely factored into Oda's writing. Stuff like the will, like just like the nature of will and all that stuff connects back to Buddhism. It connects back to all these Asian cultures, and I see you bring that into a lot of your theories, which is why I think they resonate with people, because a lot of them really fall in line with the themes of One Piece. So with that being said, today we have a really good arena for us to kind of showcase our theorizing ability, so on and so forth, our knowledge of One Piece. So I've already explained the rules to you just off stream, but let me do it again for everyone that's just arriving today, doesn't know the rules of Conqueror's Clash. This is how it usually goes, okay? So today we have Conqueror's Clash. 2 masters of Conquerors Haki here, 2 conquerors of the sea have met together. We're going to be answering One Piece questions, and each of these prompts and questions are going to be themed around the 3 types of Haki. We got observation Haki prompts, which we're going to be seeing a bunch of today. Those are prompts that have to do with theorizing about the future of One Piece. Armament Haki prompts, which are going to be questions and prompts that have to do with reinforcing what we already know about One Piece. And lastly, the titular Conquerors Haki prompts that are going to be the hard-hitting questions, the questions the world government does not want answered. And me and Threevil are going to give our answers, and you guys are going to vote on which one you like more. And those polls, the moving of the bars, is going to be the Conquerors Haki clashing back and forth. So with that all being said, I'm pretty much ready to go. How are you feeling, man? You ready to get started?
I feel superb. Let's get it.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's get into it. So let's start. I also want to clarify, I actually forgot to mention this to you. So I actually randomized. I made a ton of these prompts. I randomized them. So I actually don't know which ones we're going to get to today, which ones are going to pop up. So it's we're kind of in an even playing field here. I wanted to make it as fair as possible. So I'm not as prepared as you might think to answer these.
Yes, sir.
All right, so from the beginning, let's do slide 1. What do we got? Okay, all right, starting off with an interesting one, observation Haki. What is a theory that you didn't make but believe will come true before the end of One Piece? So would you like to take this first? Would you like me to take it? Up to you. I'll give you the honors. Take it. All right, go for it.
Yes, sir. A theory that I didn't make that I believe in. Obviously there's a few of those. Shout out to people like Dax Sake.
Hell yeah.
But right now I'm really shout out to the boy. Right now I'm really on the train that basically the One Piece planet had like a pole shift. I know like that video is going viral. I believe it was like a girl and a guy from Japan. They made a video together, put it on YouTube about like the poles being shifted in the One Piece planet, meaning like the red line is supposed to go horizontal across the equator, and that's how the world government flooded the world and had islands underwater, such as Long Ring, Long Land. It's more of a mega theory because there's just so much content that goes into the theory, but it's top of the line.
You know what's crazy? I've been seeing that making the rounds, and I checked out like the first minute of it, and I was like, okay, I have a feeling this is gonna be fire. So I actually haven't watched the video. That from what you described, that already sounds super enticing. I will say this Friday on my stream, I am gonna be reacting to that theory. I heard really good things. I'm gonna be doing a live reaction. I'm gonna watch it. I know nothing aside from the basic concept of like the pole shifting and stuff. So I'm very excited. That's interesting to me. I was gonna go with something a lot more classic, which is just the classic. The red line's gonna get destroyed, the all blue's gonna get created, and that's going to turn the world into one cohesive ocean. And to me, it's like, I know that at the end of the day, we all have these like ultra in-depth theories, but sometimes it's the simple ones that just hit the hardest. And I don't even know who came up with this idea originally, but whoever it was, kudos to you, man, because that one sticks with me to this day. I still have a hard time imagining a world where that doesn't happen, because like we don't have the all blue right now as far as we know. There's only one way that happens. There's only one way. So like, yeah, you know, that's the thing that I'm on. I've been thinking about it recently, like maybe we nailed it as a community like way before we even thought we did. And I don't know, maybe the answer is that simple. That's just one that I believe in. I feel like that's probably gonna happen.
Yeah, because like with the red line, it's a really interesting thing because like it's heavily implied that it divides the world, and it's like it causes a lot of trouble for islands to communicate with each other, and that's part of the reason the world government has so much control on the world. But like when you really look at it and like think about it, like the red line is like this huge mountain that. Yeah. Like not only is it just generally really tall and, you know, really like it has a lot of depth to it, but like it goes around the entire planet. Like I think Luffy, if he was able to punch and destroy even a part of the red line, would probably be one of the biggest feats in the story.
Yeah.
Like remember like the early One Piece, how the Straw Hats were in their little going merry and they approached the red line, like, or maybe that was when they had the Thousand Sunny. Either way, that mountain was just huge, man. Yes. So
when they first arrived at the red line, I think that's one of the most like cathartic moments in the series, because the whole Grand Line, like their adventure in the Grand Line is punctuated by this giant continental wall that's just like blocking them at each end. Like they get in through Reverse Mountain. It's a whole arduous thing just to get into the Grand Line over this massive wall. You finally get in, you get to the other side, and once again you get smacked with this checkpoint, this giant wall right there. And it's like, it's a big mystery that's been staring us in the face ever since we started the adventure. And the closer we get to now the other end of that wall, I mean, like, you know, the questions only increase. And I think the red line is going to play a big part in the whole nature of One Piece as the world of One Piece, the story of One Piece. I think the red line is going to be integral to that. So, you know, it's no wonder that most big theories involve that in some way. They involve the red line in some way to explain stuff. All right, cool. Let's see what's up next. Oh, we got right off the bat, we immediately got a Conquerors Haki question. So you got a big one. All right. Now this one, oh man, this is a pretty this actually I added 4 streams ago, and it has not shown up, I think, in any of the streams. It's been sitting there for a while waiting to be answered. So this is yours to cook, bro. All right. So we got, assuming you had to, how would you write Two Piece? Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
If I had to do Two Piece, if there's a gun in my head, I would probably have a scenario where Luffy, you know, he ends One Piece. I'm assuming he's the most free man and has some type of quote unquote power over the world, and he's like, you know what, it's time to go explore other planets. So Two Piece would be Luffy in a spaceship going from planet to planet, trying to instead of like traveling island to island like how we have now, he's traveling planet to planet in the future, and that would be Two Piece. So Luffy does go to the moon, he goes to this weird planet, he goes to that weird planet, and there's some intergalactic leader he has to fight that's like synonymous with Emu in a sense. I think Oda could or should go in that direction if he had to do a Two Piece.
That makes sense. You know what's crazy about that is I think that that's actually a real possibility just based on the influences that created One Piece. I don't know if you know about Galaxy Express 39. I think I've brought this up on a stream before, but it's a really old manga anime. You know about it?
I remember you bringing it up, specifically you.
Really? Yeah. So it's funny because one of my viewers and long time supporter of the channel, Mado, I met him when I went to Japan, and he told me about this like crazy thing about how Galaxy Express 39 is basically the same formula as One Piece, where the main character, except instead of islands, it's planets, and it's in outer space, and instead of a ship, it's a train that goes from planet to planet. So the main character basically goes from planet to planet, and each one is obviously this isolated, they have their own isolated problems, their own isolated political issues, and the main character solves them before moving on to the next planet. And there's this one character who is a lot more popular outside of Galaxy Express, who a lot of people may recognize. His name is Captain Harlock, if you've ever heard of him. He's had like some Netflix shows and stuff like that. This character is a direct inspiration for Shanks, and like he has like the brown like reddish hair, he has like a scar, I believe, he has like there's like a whole Shanks thing. So like the idea that Oda based the formula and structure of One Piece off of the idea of like going from like in outer space and going to planets, and that might actually be like what he's like building up to at some point. I think that's totally valid. The linchpin in this is actually that there is a character in One Piece who is a direct reference to this manga, and it's Lucky Roo. Lucky Roo's design is a one-to-one copy almost of a Galaxy Express character. So the inspiration is there. It exists. It's just not very overt, but I could see it. Like what you're saying could actually happen, I think, legit. My answer was way less fun.
I remember you bringing up this Expressway anime like one other time, but I didn't know that much, basically.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I didn't even know about the Lucky Roo thing until like a week ago while I was researching for one of my latest videos about the Red Hair Pirates, and I looked into that and I found out, oh shit, this guy's like a direct reference. So maybe that stuff is like yeah, Oda's definitely pulling some inspiration from there. So that's legit, bro. What I was gonna say for my two-piece one was I think what would be interesting is, let's say Luffy does succeed and the world is freed, and basically everyone can be a pirate, they can go out on the sea and have adventures. Well, we can't defeat human nature as a whole. We're not going to prevent bad people from doing bad things, so we're still going to need the Marines. We're still going to need some sort of structure to maintain that sort of balance, except the people in power maintaining that structure aren't the corrupt ones anymore. So maybe Two Piece is the opposite angle, and I could have seen a situation where Luffy let's say there is like a Boofy or like a Luffy's kid, like a Boruto situation or something along those lines. Even if it's not Luffy's kid, there's a character who maybe takes after Luffy, but instead of going the route of a pirate, he does the opposite, and the story is following the route of a Marine. And he's a Marine fighting against evil pirates who are like Blackbeard type pirates who are taking advantage of the new freedom of the world and trying to use that freedom to take over and kind of repeat the cycle. And the main character would be defending against that, like preventing the cycle from starting over. I could see that being like a good two-piece, and it's like a Marine perspective instead of a pirate perspective. That was my thing. But I think in terms of just like the wonder, I mean, we've already seen the One Piece world, you know, other planets. Yeah. The possibilities are endless with the space piece idea, but we already seen the whole world of One Piece, so maybe it wouldn't be as like, I guess, fresh or new to do the Marine idea. But
because I know like people want like a sequel to One Piece where it's like Roger's adventure and it's his upbringing or whatever, but like it seems to me like we saw every major character, every major person that was alive during Roger's time. We know how he got to Laughtale, we know who was on his crew. Like there isn't that many gaps in Roger's character, so I definitely see what you're saying in terms of like the One Piece planet being explored.
Yeah. I think that's the best I could come up with. I mean, it's gonna be hard to beat. Let's see what the poll says. Let's start the first Conquerors Clash of the stream. Let's do it. All right, let's just say two-piece for the question. All right, so two-piece, and then we'll do space piece, and then marine piece. And those are the two options: space piece and marine piece. What do you guys think? That'll be the clash. Let's see if I can actually. I wonder if I can pull this up on the monitor and actually show the chat the Conquerors Clash in real time. Let's see.
Hey, remember that stream we had together not too long ago where there was some kind of competition similar to this?
Yeah.
Was it me and you that tied originally?
It was. I think. Wait. What was it? Was that what happened? I think we did tie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we both had like colors in our background, and we voted. Or something.
We voted based on the colors. I think that's what that was.
So this is gonna be a close match.
This is the run back. This is the run back of that. Here, let me see if I can pop this out, and then we'll see if I can actually pull that up on the stream here. All right, cool. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit small for the stream chat, but this is just for the VOD. I've been realizing I haven't shown the actual clashes, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the whole format if I'm not actually showing the clash on stream. So you guys see it right now. Looks like I'm getting absolutely cooked right now by Threevil with the space piece. It's 60-40, 60-40. All right, that's a respectable differential though. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. All right, so we'll let that roll.
Hey, I wouldn't mind if we got a One Piece sequel. I'm just gonna come out.
Really?
I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't mind. Please give me more content.
I mean, yeah. I mean, who's gonna complain about more One Piece? But at the end of the day, we also have to look at like other series that did that. Like my fear is the Boruto situation, because I know that series gets a lot of flack for how it followed up the original. So like that's like I want more One Piece, but at the same time, like, oh, if it's bad, like imagine, you know, or like if Oda's not the one to write it and he passes it to someone and they're like, okay, we'll write Two Piece.
Man, I would be fine with that as long as Oda gives like the overall direction. Like he beats this main villain, he goes to this location, and then like the editor kind of fills in the gaps with stuff that might not matter too much.
Yeah,
I'd be fine, because I don't want One Piece to end. I love this story, to see the world grow, to watch Kobe get stronger, to watch Black get a second Devil Fruit. Like this story is just so vast, bro. Like you could just go on forever.
There's so much you could do with it that like there would be no shortage of content to write about.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Exactly, man.
I got a $5 super chat from Ian Dar. Thank you so much. He says premium One Piece content right here. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you for the 5. All right, so we're at about 70 votes right now. I'm gonna lock it in. It looks like Space Piece is the winner. So for the first official Conquerors Clash of the stream, and this specific prompt that's been sitting there for a while, you have come out on top. You won the first one, my friend. So very, very nicely done. All right, cool. Also, guys, make sure to like the stream. It does help us out a lot. If you are watching and you're enjoying right now, please do like the stream. And on to the next prompt. We got Armament Haki. All right, so we're getting to try the entire board of Haki right now, one after the other. This worked out great, actually. All right, agree or disagree? We currently have all the info we need to correctly guess the One Piece.
Wow. Can I let you go first? I might need a second to think about that.
I think yes. I think we do. I think we have all the info we need to currently guess the One Piece, and I think it's for a couple reasons. I think, one, because Oda has planned it out, apparently he's told his like original editors all the way back when he was writing the manga from the beginning what the One Piece was, and apparently it hasn't changed in all this time. So that tells me that if he's writing this whole story with the same exact endpoint in mind, there has to have been setup and information he's been dropping throughout the story to lead us to that natural conclusion. He also said something along the lines of like, yeah, the most knowledgeable fans out there may be able to guess what the One Piece is already. Which doesn't say that we have all the info we need, but he is kind of saying that we have a lot of info that can probably get us to there. Even we may have to take some leaps of logic, but we should be able to get there. So I feel like, I feel like we do. I feel like we should have all the info, no? It's just hard to put, it's like a cipher, you know, you can't decode the whole thing, but the message is still there in front of us. It's just, we can't decode it right now, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do believe Oda foreshadowed the One Piece. That way it's thematic and it's fulfilling. It's just like, I believe Oda can build to the One Piece, but there could still be like one major question that hasn't been answered. So therefore people don't like, how do I put this? I think people can do the wrong math and get the answer, right? So there's a possibility that there's a key detail about the One Piece that hasn't been revealed yet. And the people that guessed what the One Piece is now did wrong math to get the answer. But then again, like that is something I can't really answer unless like I reach that conclusion and I learn what the One Piece is. Because like, let's just say like hypothetically, right, in like 10 chapters we learn what the One Piece is. there's a possibility that between now and 10 chapters from now that Oda will give us a detail that's like, oh, well, that detail kind of changes everything. Now I have to recontextualize what the One Piece is. So I'm like kind of torn in the middle where, yes, I do think Oda foreshadowed the One Piece, but I'm unsure if he's given us enough for us to have the correct math. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I'm super in the middle about it.
No, that makes sense. It's really tough. So you would say you fall more into the disagree. Like you think that
I would land more towards agree, but it's a super hard decision.
Okay. So it's kind of like, and this is like what I was kind of getting at before. It's like he's given us most of the equation. There still might be like a couple blanks here and there, which are, it's what makes it so hard for us to connect the dots. I feel like all it's gonna take is like 1 or 2 chapters to like drop a single very important detail into the story that will then make all the puzzle pieces kind of sort themselves out once we get that one, like that linchpin of an idea, you know, the one thing that holds it all together, and that we might be missing that right now. I think that could be it. And in that case, I mean, it, like, believing that, I would fall more into the disagree camp. I just, like, man, knowing the way he writes stuff and knowing the way that like all these other things have paid off up until now, I just like have that feeling deep inside of me, like this man has been putting the answer in front of us this whole time, and we just won't know until he shows us. Like, bro,
yeah. Like, I'm gonna ask you something real quick.
Sure, yeah.
Let me be the one that asks good questions.
Go for it.
So, like, obviously you haven't experienced this yet. I just want to know what you think it's gonna feel like.
Yeah.
What do you think it's gonna feel like on that first One Piece reread? When you finish the story and you're like, all right, time to go through it. How do you think you're gonna feel?
I already anticipate. All right, so I anticipate being both incredibly like, it's gonna be a mix of like sadness. I'm gonna be like melancholic that I'm like glad it happened. I'm gonna be going through it and looking at everything that led up to that end point. I'm gonna be re-experiencing that adventure, and it's gonna be very emotional. I think it's gonna hit me very, very hard. And what I think the thing I'm anticipating the most is how much more the story is going to make sense on reread. Like, I'm hoping that. I mean, look, it could be the opposite. We could get an ending that just, it's like Game of Thrones tier. Like, no one likes it. Everyone's upset with the ending. I'm going to assume that's not going to happen. I'm going to assume the trend continues and we get a good ending, just like we had a good rest of the story. If so, the reread's going to be incredible. It's going to be like, every single chapter is going to be like, bro, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at how layered this is, look at this interaction, this actually like could foreshadow this later on. Even if he didn't mean it, the man pulled a George Lucas so perfectly, and he just wrote, like, he planned everything out over the decades. It just seemed to work. And yeah, I mean, the reread's going to be incredible. I cannot wait for that day.
Man, all the characters that we're gonna look, just to quickly like touch on this topic, all the characters we're gonna look at in the story, we're gonna be like, man, I know what happens to this guy at the end of the story. I know what happened to Shanks at the end of the story. Like, all the layers, just the layers of context, man. If
Shanks dies, man, the chapter 1, like, Shanks Luffy interaction is going to be so bittersweet. It's gonna change how that chapter hits forever. It's like 100%. That we'll never be able to read it the same way again. It's gonna be crazy. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, no, go on.
I was just gonna say we got a $2 super chat from Mr. Miles. He said, "Look at these handsome men." Thank you, bro. Shout out to Mr. Miles. Appreciate it. What were you gonna say, brother?
I was gonna ask you. You might have been asked this a lot, but like, if there was a character that was to die in One Piece that's actually realistic, like, I don't think like Nami dying right now is really realistic. Someone that actually has a chance to die right now, if they were to die, that you would just break down or you would be the most sad for, who would that be?
Be the most sad? That's a good question. Cause like, I can think of a bunch of characters that would die, but who's gonna give me that? Okay, I got it. It's gonna be Kuma. Kuma's gonna be one of them. I think Kuma is like a top. No. Kuma's a top 3 or top 2 sad flashback character. I'm guessing right now. I'll tell you right now. This man is it's gonna be so painful once we get the full story. That little flash that we got with just Bonnie seeing like the young Kuma, like enslaved and all that stuff was so heart-wrenching that, like, I can only imagine once the whole story plays out, and presumably, you know, now he's climbing the red line. He's already done the surgery to like transfer, like to become a robot. So like Kuma is probably on his way out. Let's be realistic. This man is going to have a sacrificial death, and just like how he the first time we saw him, he had the nothing happened moment with Zoro. He did that the profoundness of every scene that Kuma's been in. Nothing happened, smacking the Straw Hats at Sabaody, you know, everything that's happening right now. It's like every scene with Kuma is so damn heavy that once if he dies, which he probably will, oh man, that's gonna be brutal. Especially he's like the gentle giant. Like gentle giant characters hit a different spot. Yeah, it's like, man, it hits me different. That's why I love Whitebeard. He's a gentle giant. I love these people that have a lot of strength but use it responsibly and that use it to care for others. That's a very big thing for me. So Kuma, yeah.
You know, there's a reason why like Oda cut us off from the the Kuma flashback through Bonnie's POV. Because remember, she walked in, she saw Kuma getting beaten, then she like fell out. But after that, she went back in, right? And Oda hasn't shown us what she saw after that, but we saw her again post flashback number 2, and she was like crying and sobbing. Basically what I'm saying, there's a reason why Oda is not showing us that flashback, and the only thing I could really think of is Bonnie in the future, maybe soon, revealing what she saw in Kuma's flashback to somebody, and I could imagine it being at like the end of the chapter. So maybe like when the Straw Hats and Bonnie get away, like if they get away at that, Bonnie will probably like grab Robin and say like a really important line about Kuma and whatever country that was at the end of the chapter, and then like Oda kind of cuts it off. I think that's like Oda's style. Yeah. If I was to make a prediction about the Kuma stuff.
Yeah, no, I could see some sort of like dramatic tension build up with the Kuma backstory, and that reveal is probably going to have something crazy hidden in there, right? Because like there's a reason they don't want. Why didn't Vegapunk want Bonnie to go into that room, right? Like that's the question we have to keep asking is like, what exactly did she see in there that we are not supposed to see yet? And I think it can't only
be like something that's depressing, right? It has to. Oda's building on this Kuma lore, having him climb the red line similar to the giant and Fisher Tiger. He's like doing all this stuff with Kuma in the backstory. Like I guess this is what you're saying, but I think it's beyond just like, oh, sad Kuma. Like there's some lore to be had.
Oh, absolutely. I think the whole Kuma backstory, I mean, realistically, all the backstories in One Piece are more than just sad flashbacks. They all have major developments, and it's usually because of those major developments that tragedy occurs and then happens to these characters. That's when the sad shit happens. Like all the tragedy that happened on Ohara, and the sad part about Robin's flashback wasn't necessarily because she was bullied as a kid. You know, those are like little elements that were sad about Robin's childhood, but the tragedy really happened when we learned about something about the truth of the Void history, and then we have the government pull up and the Buster call. That's where the real meat and potatoes is for all of those. So I think with Kuma it's the same deal. There's going to be elements of it that are just sad, of course, by their nature, but then there's going to be a tragic element where it's like history is being erased or rewritten or destroyed, or people, like there's a great injustice happening to not only Kuma but to a bunch of other people because of the world government or whatever, and that's what they're trying to hide. There's something in there we're not supposed to see yet, and that's what's exciting. That's super exciting. All right, so we got actually, before we move on to the next prompt, I think I missed a couple super chats. We got Terrible TJ. Thank you very much. He's also a member of the channel. He said, "Who came up with the name for the Thousand Sunny?" Oh, is this like a quiz? Like you're pop quizzing us? The Thousand Sunny was it Iceberg? I thought was it not Iceberg?
It might have been Iceberg.
I think it was Iceberg. It wasn't Frankie. Frankie wanted to call it the Battle Frankie something. Yeah. And Luffy had some other dumb name. Like everyone had like a dumb name, I think. And then wasn't it Iceberg?
Yeah. It was Frankie and Luffy having a dumb name. Yeah, and then I think it was I'm gonna have to Google it.
Yeah, actually Google that. I'm pretty sure it was Iceberg. Anchored Islands, thank you for the $5. He says, "Oh damn, didn't expect Threevil to be here. Also, Jaguar D Saul, best gentle giant. I love Saw, bro. Like that's the like characters like that are just so peak for me. I mean, I think that's like those are elements. Even they don't necessarily the entire character has to be like a gentle giant. You know, there's elements of that make characters better. You have Katakuri. He's not necessarily a gentle giant, but he has that like protective older brother, you know, personality. I think that's why people like him a lot. Is like things like that. So. Yeah, those characters are always a home run in One Piece, I feel like. So I expect the best from Kuma. Everyone's saying it was Iceberg. Hell yeah. All right. All right, cool. I like getting checked on my knowledge every now and then. I actually appreciate that. It's good to freshen up on that. Brush
gotta
up.
be fact checked.
Yeah, I gotta de-rust, you know, make sure I got everything still in top condition up here. All right, so the next prompt, we got observation Haki, another theory related one. Which characters do you want to return to the story? Or do you predict will return to the story? Would you like to take that first? I could take it.
Oh, like any character?
Yeah,
like
any
or something?
Yeah. You can name whatever ones you want. What characters do you predict or think or hope would come back to the story before the end?
Katakuri, I think he's gonna do something with Pudding and like, you know, the remnants of the Big Mom Pirates, if you want to call it that. So I think he's gonna have to play a role. I've been tussling with this for a while, but I feel like NL's gonna come back because him building the spaceship with no answer as to how is kind of weird, as well as like why was he so obsessed with the moon? There was no real reason for that, nor was it explained how he even realized that the moon was important. A lot of stuff surrounding NL and his goals are very vague, especially when you look at the ancient robots on the moon that might have something to do with the ancient robot on Egghead. I feel like that's kind of pushing us in that direction. And then the third person, I'll leave it at 3. Someone that has a chance to come back into the limelight, probably Bon Clay. I think Oda's gonna have Bon Clay kind of make himself a sacrifice or make himself play a pivotal pawn role for Luffy and the Straw Hats, to where it's like, all right, Bon Clay, this is the 3rd time you've done it now, where you've looked out for us and you stay behind, and you know Luffy's crying, everyone's crying, we gotta leave you behind because you're helping the Alliance, you're helping the agenda, you're helping, you know, the Dawn. Yeah, I think Bon Clay is gonna come back for something of that nature.
Yeah, no, I'm down with the Bon Clay thing. I think that if we're getting like if we're getting end of pre-time skip parallels now with Egghead, with that whole Summit War saga and that progression, at some point we got to have the Impel Down connections return, right? Because we have cross guild characters coming back. We have Crocodile, you know, Mr. 1, Mr. 3, Buggy, all of them were the Impel Down gang. So like there's one person missing from that whole dynamic that's gotten reintroduced, and it's Bon Clay. He's stuck in Impel Down right now, but what happened just recently is Weevil got taken to Impel Down, right? So there's a chance that there's going to be a second breakout, and I think that's going to be Bon Clay's time. I mean, the Revolutionaries are making their move. Morley and Ivankov are now out of Impel Down. They were both, I mean, Morley was the one who dug out 5.5, and then Ivankov ran it until Bon Clay was there. I mean, the logic, yeah, no, that's legit, man. I totally believe in that. I think that's going to happen, like, soon. I wouldn't be surprised if Bonchan's like on page, like very, very soon.
So are you leaning towards cross guild helping or being affiliated with this Impel breakdown? Is that what you're saying?
That's a good question. You think? I mean, that I never thought of that possibility, but maybe there's a way that happens, right? Because like the big question is like, how do they come into like what's the purpose of the cross guild at this point? Like, what do they do?
Yeah. So it seems like they're like a faction and just kind of like say F you to the Marines. They're kind of like in a sense rebelling because the world government, you know, they abolished the warlord system. I think it'd be super thematic for cross guild to go to Impel Down, not only to make that like a base for them, because the base they have now is kind of like random and whatever, but like imagine like cross guild, you know, said F it, let's go to Impel Down, let's raid that, take all those guys as prisoners, make them a part of our crew, kind of like what Blackbeard did, you know, try to get Edward Weevil into the crew, try to get this guy, try to get that guy, maybe even they could work out a deal with Dofi, because it seems like they're not like a pirate crew, they're a guild. So they're all kind of like, oh, I'm doing this and he's doing that. So maybe Doflamingo could be like, you know what, let me take care of this sector of cross guild, like you're not my leader, Buggy, but we could work together and do something, you know, big, just like what Crocodile and Mihawk are choosing to do.
I love that distinction, the distinction between a crew and a guild, because it might not mean much to that, like to just hearing it, but like when you think about it, they do actually function a little bit differently from the average pirate crew. There is no clear figurehead running the show. They're a collection of dudes that all clearly have their own motives and objectives that aren't exactly interested in helping each other. I'm pretty sure everyone involved, every major player in the Cross Guild is like a pretty selfish individual in some way, shape, or form. So I don't think this is like a group that has a cohesive, shared goal, like, oh, we're going to go find the One Piece together. So yeah, you add someone like Doflamingo into the mix, yeah, he'll probably be doing his own thing as well. Like, it kind of just fits the theming already, where they're just a guild of dudes that kind of like are going with the power of numbers, but they also are doing their own thing, which I like that idea.
You know, it's interesting though, because like Cross Guild, a lot of people would compare them to Zebek and the Rocks Pirates, which, you know, there are reasons for that. But like an interesting contrast between Cross Guild and say the Rocks Pirates is we know the Rocks Pirates gather together for one big score. Whereas like Cross Guild, they didn't really gather together for one big score, right?
Yeah.
Like it seems like maybe Mihawk is still trying to get his hands on ancient weapons, and you know, Mihawk is on his Marine Hunter type beat. It's not really like they're coming together for one big score. So that is like an interesting contrast between Cross Guild and the Rocks Pirates, and I don't know if that's gonna be like a determining factor to where like maybe Cross Guild isn't a parallel to the Rocks Pirates, or maybe they are a parallel and that's just one difference.
No, that's an interesting point. And now that we're talking about, because I actually haven't given even my own answer for this, but it brings a good answer to mind now that we're talking about is if we're talking about the Impel Down stuff and how it connects to Cross Guild, there's one character I really want to come back from Impel Down, and that's Magellan. I want Magellan back in the story, bro. That Haki, Magellan is one of my favorite antagonists in One Piece. I love him because, number one, he's the only bad guy so far that Luffy had not beaten. He just had to run away from him the whole arc. There was no winning against him. And he almost was a direct counter to Luffy's fruit, because Luffy's a completely physical fighter, and he's like one of the only devil fruits you can't physically touch. So like, hard counter, like pretty hard counter to Luffy. So yeah, Magellan is dope. And he's also just like, that devil fruit's sick. I love his design. I think that the whole idea of him being so strong that he's the one guy that's responsible for keeping all of these world-class criminals in this like prison. He's like almost one of the only people basically holding it together, like single-handedly. I have so much respect for that dude. I want him to come back into the story. I feel so bad that he's been like shafted post time skip. Cause like,
think about Hannibal. Nobody cares about Hannibal.
No.
We want Magellan, bro.
Yes.
Magellan was that guy, not Hannibal.
So if they destroy Impel Down, you know, what happens to also the people working in Impel Down? Let's say Magellan gets out, like
he joins Cross Guild. Maybe they're like forcing him. Mihawk's like, yo, you either join or I kill you right now on the spot. Because I think Mihawk could take Magellan, not to power scale or anything, but I mean,
what if Magellan becomes the 10th Titanic captain?
Oh my. Dude,
right? Because think about it.
He fits that crew so well.
He fits because some of them are named after explorers. Like we have Pizarro, right? So having a Magellan on there, like that wouldn't be that would kind of fit the theming a little bit. That'd be a little crazy.
Oh man, you're spitting heat right now.
Imagine you got Shiryu and Magellan back on the same group together.
Oh my! Why did that never cross my mind? How is that, bro?
It just hit me now. It just hit me now. Like that could be crazy.
We talk about One Piece all day, every day, and that just now crossed our mind.
Wait, hold on. Think about this. Blackbeard went into Impel Down, and he tanked Magellan's attack, and supposedly was like ready to die there, right?
Yeah.
Well, if he was a 10th captain secretly, that could have all been like a planned thing.
That
could have been
plotting the whole time.
He was plotting the whole time. Hey,
okay.
Hey, all right.
That's 10,000 IQ right there.
Yeah, that's a fun one. All right, cool. Here, we got another observation Haki one. So, does Buggy become Pirate King accidentally? Where does the gag end, in your opinion?
Oh man, because you also have like the Usopp, like the God Usopp gag, and I don't know if I want to put them above Luffy. Maybe, man, maybe like Luffy, you know, goes down as the worldwide hero, and then like, you know, this one little country like Skypiea, they're like, oh yeah, but Usopp's our god.
It was Usopp.
And then, like, and then there's like in this one other island, they're like, oh well, Buggy's my god though. Maybe something like that, but like
I
on
can
a
see it.
worldwide scale, it'll probably be like Luffy. I just can't put them ahead of Luffy.
But the thing is, he keeps tripping upward. Where does he stop tripping? Like, where does he actually hit a
I'll
limit?
tell you. You know what his limit is? Buggy failing upwards, bro. He's gonna have the most powerful Seraphim of all time. Like, think about how like weak Buggy is. Normal Buggy's getting mopped by many people. Like, imagine he ends up having the strongest Seraphim because like it glitched out or something and it failed upwards, right? It would just completely fall in line. Although I am unsure if Buggy would have a Seraphim, but
I actually have a question somewhere in here. I guess now that we're on the topic, I'll just ask it. But what are some other Seraphim that you think we could see that we haven't seen yet?
I think it's gonna be the original seven warlords, because the 4 Seraphim that we've seen so far are warlords, and if you look into like I believe it's the Jewish Bible, it was said that they had at a regular basis, I believe 7 Seraphim. So yeah, I would say Gecko Moria would be another one, Doflamingo and Crocodile, right?
Right. Yeah, those would be the remaining 3. The one question I have for you then is if Trafalgar Law was a warlord and he supposedly has one of the most sought after best devil fruits out there, and it's a paramecia which would qualify it for green blood, the logic is when he became a warlord, you would think they took his DNA like all the others and then use that lineage factor to make potentially Ope Ope no Mi green blood. So is there like an S seal? Or like what isn't Law's animal, like what is the hat, his hat is like a snow leopard? I'm pretty sure that's what his hat is. So it could be like S leopard or something. Could be Law's Seraphim. I'm pretty sure his hat is supposed to be like the pattern on Law's big hat is a snow leopard. Yeah, so maybe he's S leopard. Like instead of S Law, it's like S leopard, and then it's like the Ope Ope powers as green blood. Like, so I could see that happening. Just because of how important that ability is and the immortality procedure, I feel like if they could make a Seraphim of that, they would. No, you know?
Yeah, that would be a huge help. The thing is, I'm trying to weigh out in my mind how likely that is, because I feel like that might be too good for the world government. You know, like they were searching for like this 5 billion berry devil fruit, and now they have it and they're able to like replicate it and duplicate it. That'd be pretty wild. I think Oda might try to take like an anime timing, and he's like, oh, right before Law joined the warlords, we managed to get their DNA, but
timing, yeah.
If they do have a S leopard or S seal or something like that, bro.
I think it's a wrap. I don't know what you do, but like you have a Seraphim, like a Lunarian with Law's powers. It's like, you know, at that point.
Go on.
Well, no, what do you do? Like, how do you fight that? what do you do to that?
The only thing you could really say is like, oh, send Luffy, but it's just like, what if it's not Luffy fighting Seraphim? What if it's Usopp? What if Usopp has the 1v1 S seal? How does that end, Hidden Island?
If Usopp has to 1v1 him?
Yes, a Seraphim, what does that look like?
A Seraphim mops Usopp. It's done. It's over. Usopp ain't winning that. I think okay, actually, this is so fun. I have questions prepared for these exact discussions. I almost want to find it now because I feel bad because we have this prompt on the screen, but this is the perfect time to discuss this. So you know what? Let me just find it. I'm just gonna go to it. Also, here's a slide that says subscribe to Threevil. Everyone in the chat, follow this prompt. Do exactly what that says. Subscribe to Threevil. All right, let's find the one where I actually wrote this down, because I wrote a thing where I was like, power scale the Seraphim. Like, what is their upper, like, who do they not beat in the story? Where are they? Hold on. Whatever. Okay, well, I can't find it. So what we'll do is I'll just ask you the question. Power scale. Where do you think, what's their upper limit? Like, who do you think could beat a Seraphim in One Piece currently?
Well, the problem, there's a dilemma with the Seraphim. It's just like we can't really put them above Kaido per se, because that just feels wrong with all the combat speed we've seen from Kaido, durability, power, attack potency, and such. So it's like I have trouble putting them that high, but it's like we know Luffy hasn't figured out how to permanently take them down. Like Luffy and Zoro, Lucci and Kaku, they've been fighting the Seraphim, but yet they keep coming back up, and that seems to be a problem, because that in my head must be a gimmick where it's like there's a certain way you destroy them or kill them or make them just like disabled in some sense, and Luffy hasn't discovered that yet. So I think like most of the cast, or I would say nobody really knows how to counter the Seraphim, but I think like certain people that fight the Seraphim would figure it out. So like if you put Kaido against the Seraphim, he would figure out what it takes to take them down. So in terms of like characters who I think wouldn't be able to answer the question and figure it out, at least like half the Straw Hats, right? Like
Yeah.
if there's a scenario where, picture this, Saturn is in a 1v1 situation with Luffy, and Kizaru is in a 1v1 situation with Zoro, and then you throw the 4 Seraphim on the remaining Straw Hats, I don't really see the lower Straw Hats making it out, right? Like, what is Nami and Usopp and Chopper gonna do against like Seraphim, right?
No, there's nothing. They're not winning that fight. I mean, even the little interactions they've had on Egghead is like, they don't know what to do about these guys. It pretty much has taken the best fighters on the entire island to hold them off, and even then they're barely holding them off. The Seraphim are unfazed right now. So, yeah, I mean, even I'd say the upper limit might be like Luffy. I think even Zoro might, at this point in the story, Zoro might struggle against S-Hawk. I'm tempted to say, just because of the durability, because Zoro currently has not. Like, he was able to beat King on the durability contest only because he figured out when he could attack him. But currently, the Seraphim don't seem to have that same weakness. So,
yeah.
I know there's a theory that people have been saying, like, their fire turns off whenever people, or whenever they use the Devil Fruit powers. Like, the fire on their back goes away whenever they use the green blood. I didn't check the panels to verify if that's true, or, like, if it looks that way, but if that's the case, then maybe Zoro wins. But like, if they truly are just like permanently invulnerable or whatever, I think the only way you beat that is like by bending reality. Like, I don't know who else besides Luffy wins. I mean, these guys are truly like they eliminate all the issues except for the weakness that Devil Fruits have. That's the only thing.
See, like, that's an issue though, because like if you have these enemies on the island and there's 4 of them and they're called Seraphim, and the only person that in our hearts we think could take them down is Luffy, like, that's a problem. Because like, what if it's not a Seraphim fighting Luffy then? Like, that's why, like, sorry to like go on a tangent and kind of go off topic, but like, that's why I think the Straw Hats are going to severely struggle on Egghead. If you have 4 Seraphim fighting someone that's not Luffy or Zoro, they're going to struggle severely, right? Whether they get saved or they get captured or they get sent away or something, regarding them losing, I feel like is more likely than them winning, because we don't even know how to take that until we can at least figure out how to remove the Seraphim and how to, you know, permanently take them down. Then we could have that conversation about like, okay, this guy wins, but we don't have that answer.
I think that's definitely the way. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's no way it's going to be so overpowered where there's nothing in the story that can stop them. I'm sure they have some coded weakness that we just don't know about yet. But currently, right now, I mean, it's not looking good for the rest of the world. This is like this is the ace up the sleeve for the world government, as far as we can tell. I mean, aside from the whatever did the Leloucia thing, that's their true ace. But yeah.
So, you know, fun fact about Leloucia is Marie-Joie is obviously on top of the red line. If you look at the distance between Marie-Joie and Leloucia, with Leloucia being in the New World, you could actually figure that Emu sniping Leloucia isn't across the whole planet. Like, yes, it's obviously very far because Marie-Joie is, like, again, on the red line, and it has to be miles and miles away from Leloucia, but the distance between Marie-Joie and Leloucia is similar to Marie-Joie and Enies Lobby. And why is that important? There's a gaping hole in Enies Lobby, so perhaps the next time we look at Leloucia, there'll be just a big hole there, and then that'll be like, oh, we'll be like, oh, so it seems like whenever Emu uses that never existed power, whatever that's going to be called, that just leaves holes in Earth, and that's what happened to Enies Lobby.
Do you think that's out of curiosity, how much of that do you think is going to get answered in this arc? Like, of what the mechanism behind that is?
The thing is like, sometimes it's very hard to figure out when Oda's going to reveal something. Like, you'll have a question there and there'll be a mystery in One Piece and you might have the answer, but it's just kind of unclear and it's kind of random when Oda decides to reveal it feels. So for that, I don't know, because he could Leloucia Egghead, and then we figure out like 10 chapters after it happens, or maybe we see it live, and maybe it's kind of like a Leloucia situation where we see Emu drawing on Egghead as the Straw Hats are like exiting. Like there's infinite ways that this can unfold, so I'm not entirely sure when they would get answered.
Yeah, I kind of lean more towards it getting answered in this arc just because of the countdown that got introduced like 2 chapters ago. That whole like, okay, some shit's gonna go down like a day, and whatever that is, I feel like is gonna be related to what happened to Leloucia. So I feel like maybe it won't be within the Egghead arc, but the arc is gonna be punctuated, like it's gonna be ended with some reveal about what destroyed Leloucia or whatever happened there. We might get like a brief look at it again before the arc's over, I think.
Yeah,
that's just like, that's my prediction, because like the setup with Leloucia just preceding the start of Egghead, and then like if we end Egghead, so like at the start we see what happened to Leloucia, some crazy shit's gonna go down in Egghead, the arc ends, crazy shit does go down, presumably the island gets vaporized or whatever, and we learn something about what's actually doing that. Maybe. Yeah, I think that we might get that this arc.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you actually pointing out the panel of like, oh, this unthinkable shock, this unthinkable incident, because I think the One Piece community by large is kind of like underplaying it, right? Think about Marineford, and Impel Down. It was said that Shanks stopped Kaido from going to Marineford, and that was hours before Shanks was on Marineford. Now think about that. Wano to Marineford, how far is that? That's pretty far. That's further than Leloucia to Marijua. Now, why does that matter, Hidden? The reason why the reason why it matters that Wano is so far from Marineford is Shanks had barely any time to go across the world and land in Marineford and stop the war. So when you see like this panel about this unthinkable shock that no one in the world expected coming, you have to be like, wow, this must be something that I don't expect coming. And when you think about how Shanks is able to go across the world and Marineford in like 8 hours or however many it was, 3, 4, however many, like I would expect that Shanks is able to go from Elbaf to Egghead by the time of tomorrow, as the panel stated. Though tomorrow there's going to be this whole big shock. So,
he pulls up to Egghead, you think? Yeah,
because think about Luffy, Law, and Kid, right? On the map, Luffy, Law, and Kid, there's 3 islands, and they all went 3 different directions. Logically, you would just be like, okay, well, Luffy, Law, and Kid, their ships probably go around the same speed. They're pretty relative. I don't think they're using jet engines going island to island unless it's a coupe de burst. But that's a station. So sorry, I'm going on and on.
No, go for it. I love it.
Basically, with Luffy arriving to Egghead, I think that was around the similar time and similar speed as Kid arriving on Elbaf. And we saw how when Luffy got on Egghead, he met Lilith, he was talking to this guy, met Stella, met Shaka, walked around all around the island, Seraphim's, all these events. But when Kid made his way to Elbaf, instantly one-shotted. Doesn't that give Shanks this ample time to make his way to Egghead, knowing that they were similar distances?
He already got the glyphs from him. He already got what he wanted out of Kid. So it's like, all right, we got to go find the One Piece. What's the next stop? And then we saw it in the chapter. He was assuming that Blackbeard was going to show up at Wano. He said that he was like, oh, I could have sworn Blackbeard was going to go to Wano, but he didn't. So the reason that Shanks went there was actually to go after Blackbeard. So now we saw a ship pulling up to Egghead that's one of the Blackbeard ships. We don't know who's on that ship, but we know something must have happened with Law. That if we're getting the Kid resolution, the Law resolution has to have happened as well. We just didn't see it yet. So if both of them are resolving their problems on each of their respective islands with their respective worst generation, and now both of them head to change directions towards the same island, Blackbeard goes to Egghead, Shanks chases after Blackbeard. Where does Shanks go? Boom! Hey! And that's what I'm talking about. And he's got the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure shirt, the JoJo no Kimi no Boken shirt on, popping off. That's all. What, guys? This is a stream and a half right now.
I need everyone to subscribe. Everyone subscribe to Hidden Island right now.
Thank you, bro. Yo,
subscribe to the boy.
This is all coming together. I actually love this idea. I would love if that happened.
Like,
that makes sense.
I know you're the same way. Generally, when we make theories and we're making predictions, we're not trying to say like, oh guys, it would be really cool if this happened. I want this to happen. So here's this theory. We're trying to make like an educated guess most of the time.
Yes.
And it seems like exactly how you painted it. Blackbeard had a resolution with Law, and now it seems like he's on the island. Why would Shanks not be the same thing when Egghead and Elbaf are next door neighbors? And
yes.
One last thing I'll put on this, because I'm sure I'm like distracting you from the questions.
No worries, no worries.
One of the last things I'll pitch in is like, why would Shanks go to Elbaf? Okay.
Sure.
Well, the news is saying that Luffy is kidnapping Vegapunk. Do you not think that would intrigue Shanks?
That would.
That's not really directed towards you, but
no,
I'm like,
but like, no,
the question.
no, it's true. No, that's a good point. That's a good point, because that's got to be making the news at some point, right? Like, because it's kind of like a Tarantino situation right now, where we're not sure what the order of events that's happening is exactly. Like, it's not clear. Is Garp now going to Full Lead to get Kobe? Is that happening at the same time as like Blackbeard fighting Law? And we saw in the cover story of that chapter that they kidnapped Pudding, but in the very same chapter, Pudding was now with Blackbeard already. So like the order of events seems to be like all over the place. Kid pulls up to Elbaf. A ton of stuff happens on Egghead, but within minutes of Kid arriving at Elbaf, he gets one-shotted, and that's already over. So, like, what's the order right now that everything's happening in? And, like, I feel like, yeah, now that we have a timer on Egghead, like, Oda has the narrator boxes putting a timer on Egghead. That gives us a concrete frame of reference for time for everyone now to do something within that time. So, Blackbeard's pulling up to the island. I could only imagine. I mean, like, everyone's gonna be pulling up to this island now. It's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like the Garp situation's interesting too. It's just like there's a reason why Oda showed us in 1079 that Shanks says Blackbeard's not on Hachinosu, and we know that Garp said he was going to Hachinosu. Wouldn't it make most sense if Garp was following Blackbeard, like how Ace was dressed up as a Marine following Blackbeard? Remember that in the cover story, Ace was dressed up as a Marine and he was trying to capture Blackbeard.
That's true. That is, I actually do remember. That was also the one that Moda the Milkmaid was introduced in. I'm pretty sure, which was which led into Lelucia.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
So there's the seeds are there. Oda's planted the seeds.
Yeah. Shanks and Blackbeard, they were both of these characters are deliberately written as like characters that can appear anywhere at any time. Yes. It doesn't matter if Law is fighting Blackbeard at Winter Island. It doesn't matter if Blackbeard's fighting Garp at Hachinosu. Yes. Oda's gonna fit them and give time to these characters, just like how Shanks went from Wano to Marineford in just a few hours.
No, that's an excellent point. I love the connection of like being reasonable about like how long it would take someone to travel. We've seen Shanks travel large distances very quickly before. This also can tie into the future sight stuff where Shanks might be making future predictions about where people are going to go or see into the future slightly and then alter his course based on that. So knowing, you know, I don't know what his future sight's based off of, but I think I talked about this on, I may have talked about this with someone on a stream or off stream, but the idea that Haki might be the ability to read someone's intentions or read someone's will, especially like observation Haki or future sight, which is why just prior to Shanks future sighting what Kid was going to do, he read a whole pamphlet detailing Kid's personality and history. So maybe Shanks needs to know the person to see the future about what they're going to do next. If so, that means that tells us a couple things. He was wrong about Blackbeard, meaning that he does not have perfect predictive capabilities on Blackbeard, or maybe his future sight doesn't go far enough to predict what this guy's gonna do next. But maybe Luffy, the reason Shanks is always on Luffy's tail and always able to show up whenever Luffy needs it is because he does know Luffy very well, and he's able to predict Luffy's next move very well because of it, using future sight. So maybe that plays into Egghead, where he knows, okay, Kid's here, Luffy is not here. Luffy is now doing some shit with Vegapunk. That might put the dots together, and then he's on the move. I think that makes total sense. I mean, even if it doesn't happen, the Oda set it up with his writing, so that's legit.
Yeah.
Right. So I do want to get to a couple super chats. We missed a few. Mr. Miles, another $2. Thank you very much. He says, "What island are you hiding from, bro?" Actually, I'm not hiding from an island. It's the island itself that's hiding. That's the hidden island. It's not the hidden guy on the island. But I appreciate it. I'm hiding from the world. In case you were wondering, I'm hiding from the world government. I actually have Oda in my attic right now, and he's been feeding me these theories for the past year. They've been trying to find me. They're never gonna find me. The island's hidden, unfortunately for them. But yeah, just in case anyone was wondering, that is also not an admission of guilt. No more questions on the matter. Oda, I do not know a man named Eiichiro Oda. Forget everything you just heard. Dan the Man, thank you for the $2. He says, Roger versus current Shanks, who's getting clapped? I think Shanks gets clapped. I mean, I know that Shanks is like following up on what Roger was able to do, and he's like comparable to Roger, especially with how he fights. But at the end of the day, Roger was still Roger. He's the OG. You know, who... It's kind of like a Michael Jordan Kobe situation. I feel like, you know, I feel like if Gold Roger is Michael, then Shanks is the Kobe Bryant here, where he's very, very similar, very close, but it's still Michael Jordan. You know, I've been doing a bunch of basketball analogies recently, but I think that's the best way to describe it. It's like I don't think Shanks wins that between those two, but what do you think? What do you think, Threeble?
Yeah, I agree with that answer, because like sometimes with One Piece, you don't have to have the microscope out. You could take a step back, look at the bigger picture, right? Yeah. Is the bigger picture telling us that Roger's the GOAT? I think so. Like that's what Oda's trying to depict.
Yeah. I mean, why doubt it? I mean, he's the Pirate King. He's the first one to do what Luffy is trying to do right now. So I gotta give him respect.
Yeah, and I understand when they say like Garp fought Roger to the death numerous times, and Whitebeard and Roger were button heads and like all that. I understand that, but it's just like if you have to lean any certain way, you should probably lean towards Roger, because again, like that's how the entire story of One Piece opens up to. Like wealth, fame, and power, Goldie Roger had it all. Like this is the top of the line guy. He had the wealth, he had the power, he had this, he had that. So I would lean towards Roger.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I put so much respect on Roger's name. That dude is Gold Roger is basically a mythical creature at this point. Like he's just a legend. He's a piece of legend almost. Like dude, it's hard to live up to the grandeur of a legend like that. You know, you can't even if you fight like him, at the end of the day, you're fighting like him. You are not him. It's all being compared back to Roger. Shanks can be as much like Roger as he wants to, but at the end of the day, the dude who could find the One Piece before anyone else was him. So
yeah,
you know. Oh,
and like another thing is like some people will say like Shanks has to be stronger because there's a new generation, but like people don't really realize like Luffy and Shanks are in the same generation, and I would figure that Luffy's gonna be the one that surpasses Roger, not Shanks. Because think about it, right? Yeah. When Roger was dying, Shanks was only like 14, 15. He was just a little kid, and when Roger died, it created the Great Age of Pirates, which is where Shanks got his upbringing. He grew as a man and grew as a pirate. And you know how they say like, oh, Whitebeard, we could say it was your age. Yes. Shiki told that to Whitebeard. You would figure like, okay, well, why haven't they said that about Shanks? They're gonna say that about Luffy at some point. Yeah. So that's why I would put Luffy and Shanks in the same kind of playing field, even if there's a difference in age, and it would be up to Luffy to surpass Roger.
Yes, I think Luffy is gonna be the one to truly I think the only person in the story who's going to surpass Roger is Luffy. That's like the way the narrative's been set up. It just makes the most sense. So, Mr. Miles with another $2. Thank you. He says, "Do you guys think Magellan is handsome?" I think he has a very nice beard. I would love a beard like Magellan's. I've been trying, but it just it only goes so far. You know what I'm saying? All right. Thank you very much. Another $2 from Lubu Kill You. Shanks becomes king. Luffy takes the crown. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that would just kind of defeat the purpose of the Straw Hat, you know? There's like Luffy already has a physical kind of crown that he has to return to Shanks. So like the idea of him like taking a crown from Shanks, I feel like is the opposite of the nature of their promise. The nature of their promise is Shanks from the beginning already told him, "I believe in you. Now you got to prove it to me. Prove it to me, and then return." This hat to me. This is essentially the Straw Hat belonged to the Pirate King. It's his crown in a way. So it's like, return this hat to me, when you've come to my level. I don't know if it's going to be a situation where Luffy then meets Shanks's level and Shanks has already become the Pirate King, and what they have to like trade, where like Pirate King for the Straw Hat. I don't know. It just feels like I don't know if their nature is going to be that directly competitive. with each other. I think that's more of Luffy and Blackbeard's throne to fight over, not Luffy and Shanks, you know. But that's pretty much my take on that. Let's get but yeah, thank you guys for all the super chats. I appreciate all of you guys very, very much. Great questions, great messages. Let's get to the next prompt. Let's see what we got coming up next. Subscribe to Threevil here. Observation, Haki. What do you think the Usopp Yasop reunion is going to be like?
Oh man, I'm unsure as to how Usopp feels about Yasop, because it's not really mentioned that much. And like I do get it. Like it was only after Yasop left Usopp and his mother that Usopp's mother got sick. So it's not really like Yasop left a sick woman with a kid. Yeah. So that is something to keep note of. I do think he does fall under the deadbeat side. So I guess Oda might try to go that route where him and Usopp have a conflict, and then, you know, they deal with it somehow, and then they kind of come to terms, and they're like, you know what, I accept things for how they are. But I'd rather hear your response. I'm really rocky on the Usopp Yasop situation.
That's a really that's a good take. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's not going to be as simple as, you know, you were not there for my mom, like, you're not there for me, you're a bad father. Because I think to some degree Usopp does look up to his dad. It's clear he's trying to live up to the image of his dad. He wants to be that brave warrior of the sea. He has that desire to be a pirate and go out and adventure. So part of me thinks Usopp will be able to rationalize how his father felt when he made the decision to go out to sea, when he chose to join Shanks on the ship and then go on adventures. Maybe Usopp can understand the feeling that his father had going in, because he did the same thing. The only difference with Usopp is he didn't have a wife and kid when he made that decision. So is it going to be as simple as like Usopp hates his dad, Usopp loves his dad? I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a mix of both. And I think there's going to be a desire, and I think what's really going to shine through, and this is the type of character that Usopp is, but when it comes to things like fear or cowardice or the most basic surface level reactions, Usopp is he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a coward. You can't really throw him into danger without him having a very clear response to that situation. He doesn't hold it in like other characters do, like Zoro, for example. Zoro bottles up his emotions. But when it comes to serious personal things with Usopp, and personal issues that Usopp has, he actually has a different behavior. He doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve. When something has to do with his personal life or his personal issues, he does the opposite. He lies, and he fabricates things. He makes things better than they actually are, and he gasses himself up. And what I think this is going to lead to is Usopp has this overarching personal journey to become a better warrior, but the question is, where did that journey come from? Because we know at his heart Usopp is not brave. He is not a warrior. He is not these things. He's living up to the character he basically made up for why am I blanking so hard on her name? In Usopp's village, the girl
Kaya.
Kaya, thank you. Jeez, I don't know why I was Queen of Kaya. Yeah, so he's basically trying to become the person he was describing to Kaya, but he's not that guy. Even now, post time skip, he's still not really that guy. So I wonder if when he finally does meet Yasop and they do have some sort of competition, his inner like frustrations with everything is gonna come to the surface, like we saw in Water 7. You know, Usopp had this feeling throughout One Piece up until Water 7 of feeling like the weak link on the crew. He felt like he wasn't able to contribute. He was eventually going to get abandoned. And this didn't come up until Water 7. This issue, he never talked about it with them until the ship was up for replacement. Then all the feelings came out to the surface. So I think with Yasop, it's going to be like, Usopp's going to pretend like everything's okay. I think he's going to be like, oh, it's fine. Like, look, I get to see my dad. I'm a brave warrior. See, we're like, we're here. But then as the competition like ramps up and as it starts to become more of like, I don't know, like showing his dad like who he's become, I think the feelings are gonna bubble up. I think it's gonna be more. It's gonna be more about than being the better sniper. It's gonna be more. It's gonna be about way more than that. It's gonna get personal. I think it's gonna get really personal. And little by little, Usopp's gonna let the frustrations come out. And it's at first it's gonna seem like he doesn't care, and then he's gonna care. And I think that's that's what I'm feeling. I think the dramatic Usopp Yasop dynamic is something people don't talk about a lot, and I feel like everyone's hyped about Shanks because of obviously Shanks, but we gotta worry a little bit about what this means for our boy. He's there's some serious personal issues that are gonna be coming up soon, I think. So
in terms of Usopp, I think it's really an important piece of his character's destruction, right? Like, think about the end of Dressrosa. The narrator dialogue box said basically Dressrosa needed to be destroyed in order to be rebuilt in a good harmonious way again. Sometimes you have to just erase something, get rid of it in order to grow and to seek truth and to seek harmony. I think this will apply to Usopp because I can imagine a scenario where Usopp, maybe he has the Sogeking mask on, maybe it's damaged or it's falling off, and he's telling himself, I'm Sogeking, and he's fighting this person, he's sniping this person, he's punching this person, and the mask is getting destroyed and the mask is being broken, and Usopp's saying, and he's thinking, I'm Sogeking, I'm the bravest warrior of the sea, and everyone around him, Luffy and co, they're watching Usopp fight this guy, and Usopp take on the fear, and Usopp take on the danger, and Usopp's just, he thinks he's he thinks he's Sogeking, he thinks he's this identity, and it's only because of the destruction of the Sogeking mask, or even the Sogeking identity, that you realize, who is it under the mask? It's Usopp under the mask. All the bravery is reserved for Usopp. So I think that'll be like a key figure, a key point in the conclusion of Usopp's character.
Yeah, it's the lies that bring out the bravery in Usopp. It's not that he's naturally brave. He has to lie to make it so, but it's behind the lie he's able to hide the cowardly parts of himself and put on this character. That's why he always has, the Sogeking persona, the God Usopp persona. I have 8,000 men in my crew. That's his coping mechanism for, being afraid to deal with a situation or not being able to stack up to his opponent. So I do really I do love this discussion. I think there's a lot that can be said about Usopp's character. And I'm definitely, I know some people don't think it's going to be too dramatic, but I hope there's some drama. That's a subject I've wanted Usopp to develop on for a while. We got another $5 from Dax Sake, my goat. What's up, brother? He goes, need some thoughts from two of the goats. What are your expectations for Usopp and Elbaf, assuming we get an Elbaf arc still, which I think we will. So, like, aside from what we were saying, like other expectations, what would you have for him?
Yeah, I think Oda definitely set the expectation for an Elbaf arc, and I always try to be very, very careful. Sometimes I have to gauge a character, I have to gauge a situation, and I have to ask myself, is it just because I want that? Is it just because the community is saying that? Or has Oda implied and nudged us in that direction and set that bar, right? I think an Elbaf arc has definitely been set by Oda, and it would kind of be like a fumbled ball if we didn't get that, and I don't think we won't get it. I think we will. As far as like what we'll get in that arc, I mean, similar to Wano and Whole Cake, you think like there's gonna be one main star. Like you had Sanji for Whole Cake, people think Usopp for Elbaf. That would be great, and I love the Thor lore that could connect to him and the whole hammer thing. One thing that I would personally want from Usopp and Elbaf is I want a scenario where, again, he's like he's a hero, like how he was in Dressrosa. And if you remember back in Skypiea, they made a statue of Usopp, and they're calling him like God Usopp or something similar to that. Or something similar to that effect. So I would really enjoy it if we had a rerun of that, and like Usopp does something very heroic, exactly, in Elbaf, and then they make a statue of Usopp and he's forever glorified, kind of like Verth in Skypiea, or again the statue of Usopp in Skypiea. Do that again for Elbaf.
That's a great idea. I actually like the idea of Usopp being immortalized as a hero for the Giants specifically. That'd be a really good way for his goal to come full circle. That's really cool. I was thinking like some combat upgrades he could get from the Giants, but like a personal character upgrade would definitely be some sort of like hero status on Elbaf specifically. And what I think would come with that, and I really want to see this with Usopp, but a couple things. If if Shanks' observation Haki is so good and Shanks has deep ties to Elbaf, I think Elbaf might be a place where observation Haki in general could be like a popular skill to train there. Like how Wano had Rio, maybe they have like an observation Haki sort of thing on Elbaf, and that's Usopp's like prime time, you know? He gets...
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so he gets that training. That would be huge for him. Another thing I thought of was that with Usopp, one of like the minor character traits or like secondary roles he's had on the crew was actually not like, besides shipwright, he used to kind of be the shipwright. Sniper is not exactly like a role on a ship. It's kind of just how you fight. What's his actual role? I feel like a big comparison for Usopp, and I have a video coming out. I'm going to talk more about this. Is that Usopp has a very, very strong inclination towards botany. Like Noland. Noland was a botanist, an adventurer, an actual brave warrior of the sea, and Usopp and Noland get compared all the time. Noland was thought to be a liar. Noland was a hero, said to be a liar. Usopp is a liar who wishes to be a hero. There's all these inversions that happen with them. And we have Usopp during his time skip. Who trains him during the time skip? Heracleson. And Heracleson is a botanist, and he trains Usopp in botany. So now we have Usopp using these pop greens. What I would love is if there were some sort of Elbafian pop greens where Usopp could use... he could use a pop green, and he could, like, let's say, plant like a giant tree instantaneously, and it would grow out of the ground, and he'd be on top of it, and he could use it as like a lookout tower for sniping, and he could like snipe from the top of a giant tree, and it would be figuratively like Usopp would be literally standing on the shoulders of giants. He would be head to head with people like Dory and Bragi by standing on top of his sniper towers that he could like plant into the ground. Like, I just like imagine him like pointing his slingshot right below his feet, shouting like fucking Adam Tree Pop Green or something, throw it into the ground, a massive tree just sprouts beneath him, has a massive sniper tower he can look from, and then like he can just like observation Haki snipe people from above. I love that sort of thing, and I really, really hope, I know it's like a ultra specific idea, but I hope something even just similar to that happens in Elbaf, just to make Usopp an actual like sniper and combine that with the botany somehow. I think that could be sick.
Then you also have to think of the similarities Usopp has with Green Bull then, because like if he's such a botanist and he has the pop green and everything, it's kind of there's a striking similarity between the two. Do I think they're gonna be a team? Not necessarily. I don't know if their paths will even cross, but that could be used for something interesting. That is an opportunity. Not sure if Oda will play it though.
Is Green Bull maybe that would make Green Bull the Usopp matchup then in the Admirals? That's a way out of left field one. I don't even know if that would be possible, but it's fun to think about. All right, I see I missed a super chat here from L, $5. Sorry about that, L. He said, do y'all think Blackbeard will force Law to work under him, holding the Heart Pirates hostage? Interesting question. So Law is basically forced into like a Caesar situation in Punk Hazard, where Law had Caesar's heart and like basically said, you got to do what I want you to do. Otherwise, you know, I'll stab the heart or whatever. And then the same thing we had in Wano with Kid's crew being taken hostage by Hawkins. So like, could we have a similar situation now where Law's crew, the reverse happens to Law, and Law's crew gets taken hostage, and Law has to kind of work and help Blackbeard to protect his friends? I like that idea. I could see that being a good way to have Law get like punished for his loss to Blackbeard without him getting Eustace Kid, like the Kid situation where he gets one-shotted and he's presumably out of the story and dead or whatever. Maybe having him work for Blackbeard is like a good alternative. I like. What do you think about that idea? I think
Law has to lose here. I think Blackbeard has to take an ultimate win, similar to how Shanks took a win from Kid. Right? It would be very disheartening as a One Piece fan and like setting the expectation that Blackbeard and Shanks are towards the top, and that Shanks and Blackbeard fought once in the past, and Blackbeard scarred Shanks, and then the Blackbeard doesn't amount to anything. Like, think about how Blackbeard's the only character to have 2 devil fruits, and the moment he got a second devil fruit, he split Marineford in half. And you know, a lot of people will connect Blackbeard in One Piece to the real life Blackbeard, Edward Teach or whatever. And if you look into his lore, Blackbeard in real life was very popular and known for no quarter. And no quarter, that's basically saying we don't pity our enemies and we kill everybody. Well, let's look at Blackbeard. He killed Thatch, Whitebeard, Absalom, probably a whole bunch of other characters off screen. So when you think about this character, Blackbeard, who wants this supreme power and travels across the world, gets devil fruits, kills his own crewmates, does all this stuff. He doesn't even care about his current crewmates, and he was ready to sacrifice them. Is he gonna pity the heart pirates? I don't see why he would. Like I don't think Blackbeard would care about Beppo. He doesn't care about any of those nameless people. And to know that Blackbeard grew up and he had the devil fruit encyclopedia, and it was specifically told to us in a Blackbeard versus Ace fight that he had that, and that fight specifically is a parallel to Blackbeard versus Law. It's a huge problem for Law. And
yes,
ever since I knew that Blackbeard was fighting Law, ever since that was revealed to us in the story, I knew it was going to be Law's demise. And like, I get it, Law's a pretty strong guy, he's really cool, but you can't make a future threat, you can't make a future enemy like Blackbeard take L's and look like a fool. Because some people might argue, oh well, he couldn't beat Boa because Rayleigh interrupted, but there's no reason why anybody else would interrupt now. Like, Garp is thinking Blackbeard's on Hachinosu, plus like Blackbeard's as his fight with Law already began, so I don't think it would take that long. I say all that to say that in my opinion, there's no real reason to keep Law alive or even his crewmates alive, and I highly doubt that Law's gonna make Beppo perpetually young. I highly doubt Law's gonna make Luffy perpetually young. The only checkmate move that I could see Law making perpetually youthful is Blackbeard, and the only way that could work is if it was against his will. Is Blackbeard stronger than Law? Yes. So
I think so.
Boom.
Yeah, you know, that if it up until we got the devil fruit for Doc Q, my idea was always that Law was gonna die at some point and Blackbeard was gonna get his devil fruit. And what I always wanted to happen was Doc Q, you know, he was a sickly looking guy. So the idea was, if he didn't have a devil fruit that made him that way, I always thought maybe he's terminally ill and he's already on his way out. So the idea would be, if he got the Ope Ope no Mi, he'd have nothing to lose anyway by performing the immortality surgery, because he's already basically on his way out. So why not just use the perpetual youth on Blackbeard? So I always thought that Blackbeard's goal was to get Law, kill him, take the devil fruit, give it to Doc Q, and then Doc Q is the sacrificial lamb for Blackbeard. Now that we know Doc Q has another devil fruit, unless whatever Blackbeard did to eat more than one is something that anyone can do, and only he and his crewmates know the secret to that, then you could have more than one fruit get eaten. But if it's not going to be Doc Q, it has to be someone else.
Yeah.
The only other option is just to have Law do it. So I just don't know. I mean, you'd have to really... It would take a lot to get Law to do something like that. I think he'd rather die than perform it on Blackbeard, but I don't know.
Yeah. And like, you could put it another way, like, there's a reason why Oda had Law versus Blackbeard at the same time as Kid versus Shanks. These guys have to lose. Luffy's gonna be the one to make it to Laughtale. Luffy's gonna be the one to make it to Pirate King status. And like what I was saying before that I kind of went off the tracks with, it was first introduced that Law was going to fight Blackbeard, and then after that it was Kid versus Shanks, which is a perfect parallel. You have Law on the left and Kid on the right. You have Blackbeard on the left and Shanks on the right. That is the perfect matchup. And why does that matter? Kid was immediately eliminated. It was said that Kid wanted to what? Become the king of the pirates. That was Kid's dream. That was Kid's goal, to go to Laughtale, to become king of the pirates, and to be strong. And Law has a goal too, and Law has a dream too, to find the checkered fate, the will of D. Both of these characters have dreams. Kid had a dream and he still was defeated. He was still utterly destroyed by Shanks. So if he's being set up as a parallel to Law, and Law has a dream too, I don't see why you would take down Kid, this character a parallel of Law with a dream, but then keep Law up when he has a dream too. And it seems kind of unfair, especially when you think about how massively stronger Blackbeard is than Law. But I'm beating a dead horse.
No, I'm trying to think about it. I mean, I feel like it's not going to be as cut and dry as Kid was, where like he was just defeated and there's no coming back from it. I think there's probably going to be a lot more wiggle room for Law to like survive this somehow or come out of it without just being kicked out of the story by Blackbeard. But I don't think he wins this at all. I don't think he comes out of this with a net positive. Yeah. His run-in with Blackbeard is going to amount to a net negative. I'm pretty like 99% sure, guaranteed, he is not coming out of this without some sort of loss. So yeah, I definitely agree in that respect. Okay, wow. Yeah, so I put a bunch of observation hockey prompts in today because I knew that, you know, theories are definitely our best, like our strong point, and we just keep getting them. So I'm going to hit you with another one. But this one's actually not it's kind of both. What is your proudest correct prediction? Meta question.
Yeah, it would be Luffy having a mythical Zoan human fruit.
Nice. Yeah.
I just remember, like, I was doing all this research and I was just making a bunch of theories at the time. I had some Vegapunk theories. I think I had some Zoro theories. But then I reached a point where I was like, all right, let me look into Hanuman and Sun Wukong, because I have a lot of Indian friends. I have a lot of friends that they go to the temples and they live in India. And I'm very, very, how do I say this? I have a lot of people around me that know their stuff with Hinduism. And I always try to make sure I'm as perfect and as precise as possible. And you know, we just researched Hanuman, and one of the nails in the coffin is it is said by historians that Sun Wukong is based on Hanuman. And when I learned that, I knew, okay, I should really look into Hanuman. And that led me down a rabbit hole where there's so many similarities between Luffy and Hanuman. And I was thinking, well, Luffy's fruit doesn't really act like a paramecia. It seems to act like a Zoan. Luffy recovers very quickly. He has these multiple different forms, as seen in Gear 4. It seems to give me a vibe of a Zoan. So what if, like, this fruit at the end where that one chapter where it said Zunisha, it was erased from the annals of history? What if that fruit was Luffy? And I specifically remember, I say this with no lies, all of my heart, all of the truth, and all of the honesty. I remember when that chapter dropped and it said this fruit was erased from the annals of history, there were polls everywhere on YouTube, Twitter, Worst Trend, everywhere, polls everywhere. And I specifically remember hardly anyone could agree. Some people thought it was Zunisha's fruit. Some people did think it was Luffy's fruit. Some people thought it was Zoro related. They thought it was Shanks related, Blackbeard, Zebek. There are so many things out there, and I connected the dots, and I figured it would be most best if Luffy was revealed to have a Zoan. And I guess I did predict the name wrong, where Oda went for Nika, but in Road to Laughtale Volume 4, it's explicitly stated that Luffy's based on Hanuman anyways. So
yes,
yeah, I guess
that
I
was
took
a
a
sick
W in that
call
regard.
with the Bajrang gun, man. That was a very nice call. That was you know what's funny is my answer to this question actually lines up with the exact same chapter, because almost all of my theories, almost every theory I've made so far hasn't gotten to a point where they can be proven correct or wrong yet. So I'm not sure which one of mine are correct. There's only a couple that have been resolved by this point, and one of them was my Gear 5th theory, which was different, and I was basically wrong about most of it, but the concept that I came up with did happen with Gear 5th. It just was only one attack. So for my concept for Gear 5th was that it was going to turn Luffy's entire body to the size of like a giant. And in the same chapter, he did the Bajrang. Was it the same chapter as the Bajrang gun? Or I'm pretty sure where he went Gigant mode. I'm almost sure.
It might have been like one or two
one
before.
or two. Yeah, but basically around that same time, we both, like, you hit your theory, like, hit the nail on the head. I had like that one panel that, like, when I saw that, I was just so happy to see that.
Yeah, there's actually like a funny storyline about the Hanuman theory though. And it's like, I remember at that time when I put out that video, I used to like really reply to comments, and like anyone that said like, oh, amazing video, I'd be like, thanks, man. And like anybody that would try to debate a theory, I would engage with. And I just remember that I got so much flack for that theory. And like so many people were just saying really mean things. And I'm like, dang, like what's up? And then like when this theory came out, bro, I was so ecstatic because I was true. I was right. And it was pretty much like it was kind of confirmed because Luffy used Bajrang gun around like 1048, something like that. And that was like the prime where everyone was like, oh my God, you got it. But I remember, bro, when I streamed the chapter reaction of Luffy using Bajrang gun, I messed up. I did something wrong in that stream and I got a copyright strike on that. So that video, that stream's forever permanently gone.
Oh my god, what? That's like the most unfortunate like stream for that to line up with.
It is,
Holy
bro.
shit. I'm sorry, man. That sucks.
No, it's all
Copyright's
good.
bro, I'm telling you, copyright is so finicky. I did my 1079 reaction. I purposefully picked classical music for the background because classical music is not copyrighted. You know, most of it isn't because it's so old that the copyright laws don't hold up anymore. They're public domain. And I still got a claim on the stream for that music, even though I'm certain there's no licensing, or at least I thought I was.
Yeah.
About it, so finicky, bro. But no, that was a very, very nice call. I think Gear 5th was one of the most exciting times in One Piece, and I think we're getting back to that level of hype again now with like this last chapter and stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, you got your W in a sense. I wanted to quickly say though.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm reading your chat. Shout out to everyone in chat. Make sure to like the stream.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how much this is known, but like many people say that Hinduism is like the oldest religion. So when you think about all these stories and all these excerpts and all these you know, religious and mythology kind of related stuff, a lot of those stuff derive from Hinduism. And like if you really take your time and you're looking at Hindu, obviously Oda takes inspiration from other things as well, like Greece, Egypt, etc. But you reach a point where you study Hinduism and One Piece so much that you realize like, wait, this lines up like hundreds of different ways. There's no way this could be a coincidence.
Yes.
And I'm sure you felt that way about maybe stuff with Rome, stuff with Greece, all types of stuff.
You know what's funny about that, 3? I've been looking into like the whole history of all that shit, and it all connects back to the same like stuff. Like even though I'm interested in like Rome and like Greece and all that stuff, but like the Romans got a lot of their culture and history from the Greeks. And the funny thing is, the Greeks also got a lot of their culture and history from the Egyptians. And the Egyptians got a lot of their culture and history from the Sumerians. And so like it keeps going back. So like all the gods, so like people always say, oh, the Romans stole everything, but it's like, bro, no. It's not just the Romans. It's human civilization that does this. Rome was only one civilization in that long ladder of this chain event of civilizations taking over the previous ones and replacing them and then appropriating their culture. So for example, in Rome, right? The god of the underworld is Pluto. We have that. That same god in Greek mythology is Hades. That same god in Egyptian mythology was originally, was it Anubis, I believe? It was either Anubis or Osiris. And then that same god in Sumerian mythology before Egypt was Nergal. So it's all the same god. They just had different names, and each society just changed the name of it. So I think this even connects back to like all the civilizations in the Middle East, and that led into Asia. I feel like a lot of human cultures and religions can be traced back to a pretty general like point. And that's why there's a lot of similarities, and even theories about like theories that are based on cultures from two different sides of the planet can come to very similar conclusions, because through a long chain of events, those cultures are actually connected.
You know, what ties into that is like, I don't believe that Joy Boy and Nika are the same person. And like, it seems like it's kind of Oda, like sometimes in the story has like this figure known as multiple different names around the One Piece world, kind of like what you just explained, how like a certain god in the real world will have different names
yeah.
Depending on where it's from. But the reason why I don't think Joy Boy and Nika are the same person is because I believe there's two separate events that people don't really like put into context, right? Let me explain real quick.
Yes.
So it was said that the ancient kingdom was around 900 years ago, and then there's a void century, and then the world government took control 800 years ago. But like, think about that, right? How is a country from 900 years ago more advanced than what the One Piece world is at right now? We know that Joy Boy was around for this advanced kingdom, which is apparently past us, or past, I guess, like Luffy and Egghead and stuff. But you would have to think like, wait, if that was advanced, didn't something have to build to that level? What came before the ancient kingdom? We're always thinking about the void century, but what came before the ancient kingdom? It had to have built up to that point, and I think Joy Boy was the notable figure of the ancient kingdom that was already advanced and highly technological, but there was someone and something before that built them to that level. And I believe the Nika is the origin. So the sun came first, all the planet started building countries, islands, whatever. Eventually, boom, Joy Boy, he's leading the ancient kingdom, super advanced. He was wiped off the map. Now we're hearing about Nika and Joy Boy. That's why I think like these two guys are not the same person. Something had to have preceded the ancient kingdom, and people don't really question it that often.
I like that. No, that's a interesting. So I've always just defaulted to them being the same. But when you even put it in this context, if I just look at it as like a kind of like this figure supersedes multiple cultures. And like maybe Nika is a figure that existed before even Joy Boy existed, and Joy Boy is just continuing Nika's legacy, and then now we have all this time later is Luffy continuing Joy Boy's. That does work. I mean, it fits into the whole inherited will theme. If it was all just one miracle person, like if Nika, Joy Boy, all this is just like one guy who 900 years ago or whatever they managed to just, you know, turn the world upside down and make it this wonderful place, and then something went wrong. I mean, I guess I could buy that, but the nature of One Piece is a progression, you know? It's a constant inheriting of wills and passing things forward through the ages. So it would make more sense if the Ancient Kingdom didn't spring up overnight. Hey, I've always talked about how Rome and the Ancient Kingdom are very comparable. Well, what do they say about Rome? Rome wasn't built in a day. And the Ancient Kingdom probably wasn't built in a day either. It probably took a long time to get there. So.
That's so interesting to me, because you don't have, like, at least in my point of view, you don't see people question what was before the ancient kingdom. Because think about NL's cover story. He went to the moon, boom, hieroglyphics, very old stuff, and it's saying that people on the moon lacked natural resources and went to the blue planet. That most likely probably preceded Joy Boy. Because why would someone of Joy Boy's culture, or someone even similar, maybe related, is super technological, but yet they chose to have like this really bare bones hieroglyphics, or maybe they were going back and forth. I don't know, but
it's weird, right? This is a civilization that's supposed to be hyper advanced, but they also, apparently the same people tied to that civilization used very like primitive looking hieroglyphs to communicate things instead of just writing it down. I'm not talking about the poneglyphs, but I'm talking about like in the space in the Moon City, for example, like that. They are technologically advanced there, but they also use like those, you know, the wall paintings to tell their story instead of just writing it. Sorry, I just got a brain blast while you were talking. Go for it, bro.
So one thing that was occurring to me, because I don't, maybe you have the same opinion, but like for a very, very long time, I was always like under the assumption that Joy Boy and Nika are the same person. But now that I'm kind of like rethinking it, it's just like with Nika's silhouette, obviously it's hard to analyze, and like I kind of sometimes I vouch and I kind of like influence people to not look into silhouettes too much, because they're kind of a touchy subject. Oda can change things, but it seems like with Nika, he has a spear, he wears leaves. Like, why is this? If Nika was from the ancient kingdom, and he's supposed to be this guy from this country that apparently has computers, stuff that's beyond Egghead, why would he dress like that? He's dressing in a very primitive way, kind of like Wiper and Calgara, how they wore leaves. And then that's what actually brought me down the train of thought that like, wait, what if Nika dresses primitive because Nika was at the beginning of the Blue Planet's creation, or around that time frame, and then Joy Boy was the advanced one. He wasn't wearing leaves, he was wearing an actual suit, maybe knight armor, however the advanced people of the ancient kingdom dressed. And that's why I forever appreciate Oda telling us that the ancient kingdom was super advanced, because that adds so much context. I'm sorry, I just
the only thing I would caution about that, the only thing I'd caution about that is just that we have, so for example with the Skypians, that they are dressed like they were back when they were just, you know, tribal people on the Blue Sea, but even now, all these years later, they still dress the same way. However, they also use advanced technology at the same time. So they are a technologically advanced tribal civilization. So they're using like jet skis and all this stuff, despite like having more like primitive, I guess, clothing styles and stuff like that. And by the same token, right, we had the time skip with Chopper, where Chopper landed on this island, and he thought that the people on the island were, you know, like a typical, you know, tribe where they just were not exposed to the outside world. They didn't have a lot of knowledge. And it turns out, no, actually, they were very, very scientifically advanced and had a lot of medical advancements despite their outward appearance. They had like a whole library in the tree and all this stuff. So like, I feel like Oda could just be doing a bait and switch where, yeah, maybe the Ancient Kingdom was, I guess, in outward appearances, a little bit more primitive and looked something like, I don't know, like ancient Mayan civilizations and stuff like that. But it's like mixing that with like futuristic technology, kind of going in line with the idea, like, you know how people think the Egyptians, you know, were assisted by aliens or whatever. So you have like these ancient structures and ancient people, but at the same time, they also have this mix of like crazy technology potentially. I could see that. I could see that kind of happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do want to continue just for the sake of time. I also got it's so easy to just talk, you know, with you about like all these theories and stuff, because there's so many ways it could go, and I know we'll be here all day, which I wouldn't mind. But no, I would not mind that at all. But I also want to get to people's super chats before they bounce. So, Wildful, thank you for the, I believe those are those Qatari dollars. I don't know how you print it, what the R is, but thank you for the 50 of those. I think those are reals. Did Gold Roger cause the pirate age so that people continue to dream? Which emu in the world government try to stop that in order to control people and break their wills? That's his question. I personally think so. I think one of the reasons that Roger laughed at Laughtale is because of the realization maybe at that time that One Piece, whatever it is, does not yet exist. And I think the only way that One Piece can exist is if enough people believe in it. Just like how devil fruits come into existence with people believing it. I think it's all about the belief in it existing that makes it real. And this ties back into the whole Gaimon chapter, where Gaimon believed there was a treasure at the top of this mountain for all these years, but when you finally got up there was no treasure up there. But what happened is when Gaimon did actually realize the treasure boxes were empty, he realized the real treasure, which was, you know, the island that he ended up staying on all this time, the friends that he made. Not to say that the journey was the real treasure the whole time, and that's what it's going to be. But I think the symbolism is similar, where like, you have to believe in the One Piece to make it so. It's that belief in it, whether or not it is real. People think it's not. But Roger starting the pirate age and doing what he did got an entire generation of people talking about this mythical treasure. And because of that, it made that belief, whatever power that creates devil fruits and the beliefs and dreams of people that make those things possible, I think made Laughtale possible too, or rather the One Piece possible. So that's what I think. What do you think about that, Three?
I think when Roger got to Laughtale, he learned of a prophecy, and he learned that someone's gonna have to make it to Laughtale. The reason why is Roger and, you know, Ko, when they left Laughtale, they said that we were too early. And I know a lot of people associate that we were too early statement with Shirahoshi because she wasn't born yet. But the thing is in that panel, when he says he's too early, it's in relation to the One Piece, because in that same breath, he's saying, oh, we're too early. I wonder who's going to find the One Piece. Yeah. So I wouldn't correlate the too early with Shirahoshi. I would correlate the we're too early with the One Piece. And the reason why that would matter is because, again, I figured like Roger got to Laughtale, he sees, you know, what's going on, and he's like, all right, someone's gonna stop here at this island, or at least I hope someone's finding this because of this prophecy. This guy's supposed to do something in like 20 years. So let me influence the world. As soon as I die, I'm gonna influence everyone to go look for this treasure because I need a help from fulfill this prophecy. That's how I interpret it. That ties into my Aztec calendar theory.
Yeah, I actually haven't checked out the full Aztec calendar theory, but at some point I'm gonna have to like peep that on one of my, because I do theory review on my streams. If that ties into all of this, I am very curious to hear the rest of that, especially I mean, if the Aztec calendar stuff, like, you're also factoring in the whole predicting doomsday thing, right? Like, yeah,
because in NL's cover story on the hieroglyphics, there's a symbol of an Aztec calendar on it. So then you'd have to wonder, why is that in the story, right?
Prophecies, that makes sense. Like, okay. So they have a date in mind, maybe. Like when they put everything together, maybe they had like a specific time frame in mind for something to happen.
Because think about the pyramid in Shandora. That pyramid that was made of gold and now it has moss, that is exactly 1-to-1 as I forgot how you pronounce it, a pyramid in Mexico. Mayans used to worship the sun god or whatever, right? It is the exact same thing. You could have both pictures side by side. And one of their greatest technological feats is the Aztec calendar, as seen on the hieroglyphics in One Piece. So then you would just have to question, like, okay, well, what's going on with that? There seems to be a prophecy. And think about also in Shandora, what was by that huge pyramid in Shandora, which looks like Mayan culture? The bell. And what's on the bell? A monkey with a straw hat. Why does no one talk about that?
No, it's that still gets me to this day. I still get freaked out when I see that. I'm like, okay, something's going on here. Like, I was thinking, like, was Joy Boy a mink? Like, was he like a monkey mink? And then like was he a literal Wukong, like Sun Wukong?
Okay.
Like, you know?
I'll quickly put it this way.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine Roger gets to Laughtale. He sees everything about the past and everything about the future. And Roger says, man, this is really a funny story, because not only do I hear about what happened before in the story, but I hear everything that happened now with the story. So what a funny tale. But man, I wish I was here to see that straw hat, or that monkey in a straw hat, man. I wonder what he's going to look like. That monkey in a straw hat. And how do I know about him? Not only because it's Shandora Bell, but this story, this funny tale is telling me he's going to arrive in 20 years.
I would love if there was some sort of like Aztec prophecy being worked into this, because I've always found that sort of stuff, especially with the Skypiea arc, to be really interesting. Like when Robin first reads like the poneglyph there, and it's like, we are the ones who weave history, and like the mystery and the aura about that civilization always gets me. And it felt more ancient than any of the other ones that we've seen, not only because it's isolated in the sky, but because like Aztec and Mayan civilizations are incredibly old civilizations compared to all the other ones that we've seen. Like you know, I mean, I guess the fishmen are, you know, they're based off of like Atlantis and all that stuff, but like, I don't know, there's something about that, like the Mayan Aztec influences, that like really feels like we're going back in the history. And I can only imagine that connects really deeply with the prophecies that that Luffy is going to inevitably fulfill, right? Assuming there is some overall prophecy. DW Crow 13, thank you for the $5. He says, Threeville's biggest W to me is realizing Luffy was based on Hanuman. Getting that right is why I'll never call any of his theories a reach, even if I disagree. Hype that, man. I completely agree with that. I think, well, first off, even if you disagree with a theory doesn't necessarily make it a reach. If you give some supporting evidence, you know, the evidence is there. Whether or not the conclusion will line up with that at the end of the day, that's up to Oda. But theories are theories. I think calling the Hanuman thing is big respect points. And I remember hearing about this theory the first time. I honestly thought it was like, even from back then, there was like legit chances for that to be real. Before knowing anything about Gear 5th, just the framework of it, like the cultural influences, that's up Oda's alley, 100%. So yeah, big W in that regard. Terrible TJ, another $2. Thank you very much. He says, screw Two Piece. We need Past Piece. Yeah, you want a prequel, right? Yeah, that would be the ideal, in my opinion, right? Like, I think the only way to upset the least number of people is to not make a sequel, and to do some sort of prequel to One Piece. I talked about this, I think, on the last Conqueror's Clash, but or it was on Dak's stream, but I want like a One Piece prequel that takes place hundreds of years before One Piece, where it's like all different pirates, all different marines, everyone's different. The countries and the locations look different, so we could go to Dressrosa, but it's a different look in Dressrosa. It's not the exact same. You know, I want to see what it looked like 400 years ago when they didn't have like all the things that have happened now. And the technology, maybe they have different technology. Maybe the ships look different back then. Like, I want to see that One Piece. Like, take us back a little bit. I'm down with that, bro. Another $5 from DW Crow 13. Thank you. He goes, oh wait, oh this is another super chat. Threeville's Hanuman videos changed my perception on One Piece and is the reason I started deep diving into Hinduism. Well, how about that, bro? That's awesome. You're inspiring people to get to look into cultures. Look into different cultures.
I'm happy to hear that, and like I just wish anytime I made a theory on Twitter, YouTube, wherever, there was a disclaimer that I'm making my best prediction. I don't necessarily want any specific thing to happen in One Piece. I'm just trying to give my most educated guess and my most probable option whenever I put a theory out, generally speaking.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time to bring this up, but like as theorists, you know, this is something we deal with sometimes where people like take, you know, we put a lot of theories and ideas out there. Sometimes people take it, you know, a little bit more seriously or a little bit more personally. And I do think that at the end of the day, we have to remember that a lot of this is just for fun. We're just trying to connect the dots. We're trying to make like, you know, we're trying to make fun sounding ideas and stuff that sounds plausible with the story. And I will say in that regard, I think Threeville's great at that. I think his theories are very, very detailed, very detail oriented. They're very well supported, and at the end of the day, in 2 years, 3 years from now, you know, whether or not our theories end up being true, I think it'll be fun to look back at least and see what we were predicting. I definitely, what I will say is once One Piece is over, I want to go back and look at all the past theories that people were coming up with before we knew shit and like see what people were saying. Like just remind myself what people were like thinking of back then. Artur brought this up last stream, like some interesting theories that like came out back in the day, like back in the day. I can think of a couple, like just the idea of Paulie joining the crew back in Water 7, like there's like a lot of like interesting ideas like that. I'm looking forward to seeing those once the series is all wrapped up. Wow, I got all right, got 2 more super chats to answer. I believe, no, we got 4 more. All right, I'm gonna get through these quick. Mr. Miles, thank you for the $2. He just says, woof. All right, thank you.
Woof.
Woof, right back at you, my friend. Lubu Kill, you another $2. He says, look up Philippine tribes, culture, and religion. Thank you very much. I will absolutely be doing that. I'm assuming this is in relation to some of the stuff we were talking about before with like the ancient kingdom stuff. But yeah, I'll be checking that out. I don't know too much about the tribes of the Philippines. Another $5 from DW Crow 13. Thank you. Thank you. He says, have either of you heard of Graham Hancock's theories that there were ancient civilizations before us that were more advanced than we are now? I have not heard these theories myself, although I will say it's not the craziest idea in the world. The only thing that makes me question this is, if that were the case, why haven't we found records of that at all? You know, in One Piece, even the ancient kingdom, as much as the world government tries to hide it, and not that One Piece is a good framework to base real life off of, but even in this world, this ancient kingdom was not able to hide its existence forever, right? Because some remnants of it did remain in the world. In our world, we've pretty much mapped out a lot of the planet. We've explored a lot of the planet. We've dug through a lot of the planet. I feel like at this point we would have found at least one artifact or piece of technology that would have told us, hey, like, how does this work? This does not seem like a tool we know how to use right now. What is this powered by? We haven't found any of that, you know? So as far as we can tell, like, everything has left some sort of record that led into the next generation for human civilization. So that's the only thing that doesn't sell me on that. And last super chat, and I don't know if you want to weigh in on that at all, Threeville? If you have an opinion on that, I don't want to stop you from getting your...
No, you're good, bro. I totally agree. I don't know if I could add much to that one specifically.
Yeah. All right. But thank you for the donation. And lastly, we got another $5 from Silver Crown. He says, I think the One Piece will be something abstract because our imagination makes the mystery interesting, and it would tie in with the theme of imagination. Yeah, so an abstract concept for the One Piece, I mean, the way it seems to me is like the One Piece has to be something that if it's not immediately apparent what it does, the effects of it got to be at least significant to everyone in the world. So it might be an abstract concept, but whatever results from that abstract concept, I think has to be very simple and something that the entire world can relate to and connect with. Otherwise, like, if you have to explain what the One Piece is after it's been revealed to everyone, and it's like, I have to give you like a full dissertation on like why the One Piece is what it is and what it does, like, I think it's a little bit more simple than we might think. So,
100%.
Yeah, I feel like that's just the kind of writer Oda is. He goes for the simple, elegant solutions in writing. So, but
it'll probably be revealed in such a way to us and citizens in One Piece where it's like the One Piece is a blank that does blank. It'll be something like that. So like for an example, well, actually I was going to bring up the theory that you plan on reviewing, but let me not bring that up.
Yeah, actually save that. I have so I have this week. I'm going to be doing that 40-minute the Japanese theory that's been like making the waves on the internet. I'm going to be doing that, but I think what we can do is I'll actually put a note right now for myself because I want to bring theory review back. I want to watch the Aztec calendar one. That sounds interesting to me. Like genuinely, I think I could super vibe with that, especially what I've been researching lately. So yeah, yes. But if you want to give like a little bit of a taste, I mean, feel free to tell me a little bit of what you wanted to say.
Yeah, I'll spin it towards the Aztec calendar way. Yes. So like with that, right? If you tell the One Piece world, or like us readers, the One Piece is the book of the world that tells you the past and future. That's pretty big for people to know the future, because think about Madame Charlie. Like, she's a one-off random anomaly, but yet it's such a huge deal that she could see into the future. People still talk about Luffy destroying Fishman Island to this day. And then when you think about Island, we had that whole theme of future sight, seeing to the future. Can your will and your decisions change the future? Which it did happen. I believe Capone Beige changed the future that Katakuri saw during the party, something along the lines of that. So I can imagine a scenario where the One Piece again is something telling you about the future, hence why they said it was too early. But more importantly, it'll probably be a really concerning future. It'll probably say something like Emu kills half the planet, kills millions of people, and it's up to Luffy to make his decisions, his imagination, and create this new reality to change the future, just like what we saw on Whole Cake Island. It was very deliberate.
The future can be changed.
Yeah, and then one other like little tidbit I want to talk about the One Piece, and I'll kind of pass it off, is I think they're going back to what we were saying earlier. There are big clues about One Piece, and I think Oda is setting up this kind of curveball where the One Piece is this great, phenomenal treasure. Every pirate in the world wants it, but I guarantee you, Luffy's going to be the one to hate the One Piece. That's why I think like, if imagine like Blackbeard would love it, Roger would love it, all these people would like it, but it's up to Luffy being his own person. He hates the One Piece and destroys the One Piece. That would be the most interesting twist. Why would that be even better? Like layers on layers. If the One Piece told you about the future and it was this Aztec calendar, Luffy would destroy the calendar and be like, "What? I don't care about the future. I don't care about this book. I don't want someone to tell me what's gonna happen. I'm living my own life. I'm the most free man in the world. I'm not gonna be bound by this gold poneglyph, whatever it looks like, telling me what's going to happen and what Emu's going to do. I'm going to make this world that I'm living in." And then that'll be such a nice taste, setting us for Final War.
That's a beautiful theory. Hold on. That's actually, so I'm just thinking about the idea of like, yeah, that would be a crazy good treasure, wouldn't it? Like being able to know fate, like to just know what's coming in advance, like to know the future, right? And then the world government would be like they would be so freaked out by this, maybe, that they the concept that, yeah, at some point in the future they know Joy Boy will return, so they're doing absolutely everything in their power to prevent that from happening, the inevitable future, and they're not able to change the future because they lack this sort of like X factor, this dreaming or imaginative ability that Joy Boy has, and that's what's going to change the future. It's like Luffy's ability to change the future is going to be what allows him to truly either harness or destroy the One Piece. And this makes me think of the ending of One Piece Stampede, right? So at the end of that movie, and sorry for anyone, mute the stream for like the next 20 seconds if you don't want Stampede spoilers. At the end of One Piece Stampede, you know, they're all fighting over the eternal log post, the Laughtale. Luffy grabs it, and then he just looks at the camera's pointed at him, and he just smashes it in his hand. After he gets the reward that everyone's fighting for, he just holds it in front of everyone. He's like, "I'm gonna break this," and he just smashes it. And he's like, no one should cheat. No one's like taking the shortcut. And that's like him changing the future. It's like, no one should know the future. Dude. We make our own future. I'm going to make my own future. I'm destroying the One Piece.
I bet you Oda, like, he told the guy that like, he told the director of Film Red, break the log post, break the eternal log post, because it's such Luffy. Like, when I was thinking about the theory, and how I first thought of it is I was looking for symbols on NL's cover story. Everyone does this all the time, and I was like, wait, what's that symbol right there? And me and my homie, we were in Discord for hours trying to find like all sorts of religious symbols, all these crosses, these stars, and we landed on the Aztec calendar. And I'm like, okay, well, Luffy wouldn't like that. Wouldn't he hate the One Piece, and I was like, wait, that's so beautiful and thematic. All these pirates, the entire world, Roger influenced an entire generation to go look for this One Piece, and the one who finds it, the main character Luffy, is the one who hates it and destroys it. I think that's so thematic.
That makes a hey, you might come to a different conclusion than we did, right? Like that's a brilliant it's a brilliant way for that to come full circle, where like Luffy's conclusion was different. He came to a different answer. I'm not going to use this. I don't want to know my fate. That's true freedom, right? Not knowing what the future holds is true freedom. And for those that do know if Luffy is some prophetic hero, he always says, I don't want to be a hero. He doesn't want to be this prophesized hero. He doesn't want to be this legend. He wants to chart his own course in life. He doesn't want people to slap a label on him of what he's supposed to be. So if there is this prophecy that says, Luffy, you are meant to be this hero, you're meant to save the world, you're meant to do X, Y, and Z, maybe he's like, fuck that. Like, no, exactly. I want to do what I want to do. And then he decides to go against fate. No, that's great, man. That makes me really want to check out. I'm gonna have to check out that video. Thank you. Lord Vegeta, thank you for the 5 memberships that you just gifted. I didn't get to say this when you did it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, bro. Everyone, make sure you grab those when you can. And another 20 memberships from Killer Comedy TV. Thank you, homie. Thank you. Welcome to all the new members of the Hidden Island VIPs. I'm glad you were able to do it on such a great stream. I'm having a good time. Threeville, I think we've been going for about 2 hours, so why don't we do maybe like 1 or 2 more prompts and then wrap things up for the day. And let's make sure these are, let's do some good detailed answers as a nice welcome to all the new members. Let's see what we got up next. Hopefully it's a Conquerors Haki one. No, it's not. It's another observation Haki. All right. Well, we actually answered this, right? Which Seraphim that hasn't been revealed yet would you like to see? Let's move on to another one. See, everyone's claiming them. Guys, make sure to claim the membership. You got to click on the gift and then hit accept. You have to accept gift memberships from the channel. It won't automatically give it to you. Just for those that don't know how to grab one. Make sure you get it while they're still hot. Armament Haki. Favorite character in One Piece, least favorite. What's each end of the spectrum for you?
Favorite is Professor Clover, and least favorite is...
Wow, that's an interesting one.
Probably Apu.
Oh shit! Wait, so Professor Clover's your favorite? Okay, hold on. I actually can see Professor Clover. Explain the Apu one first. Tell me the Apu one.
His devil fruit it kind of made me like excited. I'm like, oh, you could probably do cool things with that. Nothing that interesting was really shown.
Not very cool. Yeah.
He was at Sabaody and he was at Sabaody, right?
Yeah, he was.
He was at Sabaody, part of like this worst generation, but didn't really amount to much. He was like subjugated to Kaido, I guess. I don't know. He's just been kind of a letdown. I feel like if you removed Apu from the story, it would still kind of be the same thing, right? I don't really see him being necessary, or at least to my knowledge. Maybe I'm overlooking something. He's just not that interesting.
Apu is definitely on the lower tier of characters for me. I gotta be honest. I mean, in retrospect, I can't exactly blame him for betraying Kid and co. But aside from that, there's not much else to his character. Explain Clover though. I want to know. Okay. I want to know Clover being your favorite. That's a good one.
I think Robin's flashback is easily the best stretch of One Piece chapters, bar none, not even close. And the reason why is like the whole story is about this little kid, not a little kid, but this kid named Luffy. He just wants to become the Pirate King. You have to wonder, well, how do you do that? You find the One Piece. Well, how do you find the One Piece? Oh, there's poneglyphs. Oh, poneglyphs, what is this? The whole story of One Piece, the entire reason why this is on paper and is being drawn and is being written is because there is this legendary man named Joy Boy from this great kingdom, supposedly, or at least it's being alluded to, yes, that died, and he left behind this great phenomenal treasure. And the only reason why on page 1, chapter 1 of One Piece, it says Roger left behind this great treasure is because of Joy Boy. And all of this was pretty much built up and alluded to and really given to us because of Robin's flashback, because of this man named Clover who died for knowledge, died for history. He's the one that told us about the ancient kingdom. He's the one that said 20 guys came together. He was the one that built up the structure, the foundation to One Piece. Without Robin's backstory, like as emotional as it is, especially with the history stuff, it would be one gaping hole in One Piece without Joy Boy in the ancient kingdom. And I don't think this would nearly be the same story without it.
Yes, I you know, that's a good point, and I think to some degree, right, as One Piece theorists, like people who go out of their way to try and crack the mysteries of One Piece, we owe a lot to Professor Clover, right? Because
Yes, sir.
he's like the OG, like he's like the OG theorist, you know. And then like on top of that, like up until that point in the One Piece story, there probably wasn't that much to theorize about. But it was when Clover gave his whole speech on this the existence of this ancient kingdom, and then the Buster Call that happened, and then the poneglyphs, how they all tie into that. Yeah, Clover is like the progenitor of One Piece theorists. He's like the guy who started it all. So he's the OG. I gotta give him credit. I respect that answer a lot. Thank you so much. Another 20 memberships from Killer Comedy, man. I don't deserve this. You're such an absolute legend. I was thanking you in the chat. I just want to say thank you so much for honestly supporting the stream in this way. It makes it that much more worth it, man. Thank you. Everyone, enjoy the new memberships. Welcome aboard. And he donated $10, and he said, right, just came by to say hi. My friend is watching One Piece and we're in Ennie's lobby. I'll watch the VOD later if it's still up. Well, it will be here, my friend. I hope you enjoy when you finally do get to catch the full VOD. And everyone, make sure to thank the man. He's been really coming through clutch for the streams every single time. Really appreciate it. But yeah, a lot of love showing up for you, man. This is a really big stream. Seems like everyone's enjoying it, so this is great. All right, what do we got next? We got okay, this is an interesting one. We got an armament hockey prompt. It says, "Are you excited for the One Piece live action? What are your hopes and worries?"
I am excited. My hopes is that Haki could be shown a bit better than it was in the anime, and I'm also hoping that the pacing is like tremendously better. If they can knock those two things out of the park, I would probably lean towards a live action. Me personally, I can't watch any kind of media if it's just really slow and really boring with little to no build up. And a lot of times, I started One Piece from the anime, but a lot of times, like I'm like, man, this is really rough. I'm not really enjoying this.
The manga is, in my opinion, the manga should supplement the anime at certain parts because the anime gets so slow. I mean, if you don't like slow build-up stuff, like I'm surprised you actually started with the anime. I'm surprised you didn't quit off of that, because I know a lot of people that if I had shown them the anime instead of the manga, they wouldn't have made it. Like they wouldn't have lasted until the end of the series or whatever.
Yeah, the first time I got into One Piece, I dropped it because of Dressrosa, and I dropped it for like 8 or 9 months. I had to pick it back up and fucking force myself through the anime. I barely made it to the end of Dressrosa, and I was like, you know what? I'm switching to the manga. Never looked back.
I can't blame you, dude. I mean, ever since it's funny because I got caught up mostly on the anime, and then when I finally had to switch to the manga because I had no choice, ever since I did that, it's impossible for me to go back. Like now it's like I want to watch the new episodes that come out every week, but it's like a year behind, and I know that half the episode is going to be like 2 pages of the manga, and it's like, oh my gosh, can't bring myself. Shots. Yeah, so for like the One Piece live action, I think one of the biggest boons it's going to have is its like brevity, how compact it is. They're gonna fit all of East Blue in 10 episodes, and each of those is like an hour. So it's like 10 hours of One Piece content, but that's all of East Blue condensed in those 10 hours, which that's, there's a lot of time, but then at the same time, there's not a lot of time. So I think it might strike a really nice middle ground where the pace is constantly moving. It has a lot of stuff happening throughout from beginning to end. There's not really any low points. My biggest worry is that it's not going to be able to capture the lighthearted elements of One Piece as much. I worry that the humor is not going, because a lot of One Piece's humor is cartoonish humor. And that doesn't translate into live action as much. So I feel like One Piece live action is going to have to they're going to have to take a different angle for comedy, and they're going to have to change the nature of comedy in One Piece to fit the live action, or they're going to have to drop a lot of the comedic elements entirely, or the cartoonish elements, and make it a much more serious show. Which in both directions, I'm not sure if that would be a good or bad thing. Like, would making it more serious make One Piece better or worse? Would it make it harder to take it seriously when at the same time as the show being dramatic, you have Luffy stretching around and doing all these wacky things? Who knows? Would it hurt the show if the brand of comedy of One Piece changed for the live action? They might just not be great at writing jokes. Like, that could also be another thing. So like, that's my biggest worry, is that the tone of the cartoon-based series is not going to match when you transition that cartoon into a live-action medium, So that's my big thing with that. But I am looking forward to it.
This might be a hot take, but like in the live action, it might outpace like the dramatic moments. Like if I'm watching a real life Nami and I'm looking at her actual face and her eyes are super red and you can see she's stressed out, and this character is playing Nami really good, that to me might look better than like a 2001 animation of Nami, and that might be a hot take. I don't know, but if I saw, again, a real life Nami and she's actually bleeding or the blood looks realistic and she's crying her eyes out, that might be better in the live action.
No, that's true. That might hit even harder. That could hit even harder. The real human performances are going to add a new layer to One Piece for sure. Just like having human emotions being like completely on screen, like it's an actual human. It's not a cartoon. It's a real person. With good actors, that can go a long way. So,
dude, how hyped are you to watch like Luffy? Can you help me again?
Oh,
like,
man.
how hyped are you for that moment? Again?
To be real, the hype moment, the real hype part for me is going to be Baratier. I'm so excited for Baratier. There's so many moments I can think of right now, which is like Sanji saying goodbye to Zeph. And like that whole like don't catch a cold moment. Zoro versus Mihawk. I can only imagine what that's gonna look like if they manage to get the combat looking good in live action. You get a live action Zoro v Mihawk, and that whole "I'm never gonna lose again" tearful goodbye. Mihawk having that realization where Zoro's like a scars on the back or a swordsman's shame, and Mihawk smiles and goes magnificent. He has that. It instantly hits him where he's like, okay, I found a guy that fucking gets me. I want that to if they can pull that off in live action. And it's like, surpass me, Roronoa Zoro. I will lose it. And I'm not even like the biggest Zoro fan. It's just that moment hits me like a truck every single time. So that's my like, I can't wait, bro. That's gonna be so hype. All right, so let's see if we can knock out one more, whichever one this is. Okay, this is a pretty good one to end on. We got an observation Haki one here. It says, what do you think or hope Laughtale looks like? So I think we've briefly touched on this, but I would love, like, if you could paint a picture of, like, you get to Laughtale, what do you think the island looks like right in front of you?
You know what I think it looks like?
Yeah.
Let me pull up this photo so I could literally just describe what the photo looks like.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. All the buildings on Laughtale are gonna be curvy. If there are statues or maybe even people, they're all gonna look goofy and long because it's gonna look like Toontown. Imagine like a town from like a comic. Everything looks wacky. You can eat a building like Whole Cake Island. You could bounce on this grass right here. All these animals are elongated, whatever. I think it's gonna be like Toontown, just complete silliness. Like if you took Long Ring Long Land and turned it up to 1,000, it's just gonna be complete like Gear 5 wackiness. This is stretched out, this is rubbery, just complete goofiness.
I think, I think the way you're describing it sounds a lot like a Dr. Seuss. Like it would look like a Dr. Seuss village. Like imagine green eggs and ham shit. Like that. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that actually. Like maybe the ancient civilization had like those really weird and like cartoonish, like Dr. Seuss type buildings. Like they don't really make sense, but they're I could see that. That's actually really this is the first time I'm ever thinking of Dr. Seuss in the context of One Piece, but the way you describe it, like a Toontown. This is actually when I was young, I actually played Toontown. So I like
okay.
I have the fond memories of that. That would actually that would be a nice little callback.
Yeah, because like Laughtale could be like a separate entity from the Ancient Kingdom. Like, yeah, I know Joy Boy is technically associated with the Ancient Kingdom and Laughtale, but I don't think like Laughtale necessarily needs to have the same architecture or maybe even the same technology, because it could be like, oh, I'm Joy Boy, I'm from, this kingdom, I'm from the One Piece, that's the name of my kingdom, but I'm gonna leave this grand treasure behind on this goofy looking island that no one's gonna be able to find. It's gonna look so goofy. It's gonna be, I'm gonna make the island, everything's gonna look silly like Dr. Seuss. It could be a direction like that it could go with.
Yeah, and that we kind of have that sort of like I see someone in the chat actually mention it. Yeah, look, Abhijit mentioned it. Dak Sake's Long Ring Long Land theory stocks going up. So like Dak had the whole theory about like how Long Ring Long Land might have been influenced by Joy Boy, and like the reason everything is elongated and stretched out is because of that. So that connects into your idea where it's like maybe those sort of properties are applied to the entire like ancient civilization, where their cities and their buildings or Laughtale looks like a long ring long land situation, but more extreme, like way more extreme. Like maybe it's not just everything's longer, maybe like everything's like warped.
Yeah.
Really interesting point. My idea was always that it was gonna be similar to we've talked about the Rome stuff, but I specifically think it's going to involve that plus a combination of other societies. So like Fishman Island is not just Atlantis, it's not just ancient Greece, it also mixes elements of like ancient like Japan, and like it has Japanese mythology woven in there. So a lot of the ancient cultures of One Piece seem to be like mixtures of stuff. Alabasta is Egypt, yeah, but it also has like Arabian Nights references, which are not Egypt. That's a different thing. Even though it's all in the desert, there's like a mix of all of that going. It's not just one civilization in there. So in that same respect, we have all these ancient cultures for the ancient kingdom, like the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Egyptians, that all influenced the designs of these ancient races in One Piece. Maybe it's the same thing with Laughtale. Maybe it's like a combination of a bunch of like really old influences to make something totally new, and maybe high tech. I don't know, but yeah, I personally like the Toon World idea. That's a really now I can't help but think of a Dr. Seuss island now. That's like that.
And that's probably all of that's probably going to take place at the center of the earth, man. That's why you have that classic fictional story that came out way before One Piece about the journey to the center of the earth, man. That's why no one stumbles upon Laughtale. How are you going to stumble upon the center of the earth? That's where Agartha's from. That's where dwarves originated from. Ooh. Like all sorts of things. You might want to check that one out too. I know we talked about it a little bit.
Yes, we've talked about like you had the whole inner earth theory. I love that idea, and I also I want more fiction in general to reference this idea of like a world beneath our world that we just don't know about. Because it's like a parallel. It's like the opposite of Skypiea, where there's an entire like sea, quote unquote, above their sea, and no one knew about it or cared about it until they actually went there. So maybe there's like a whole inverse of that situation where like we have no idea, but there's a whole world under the ocean. You know, there's a whole layer beneath that. I like that idea. I would love to see something like that, because it captures the wonder, like the mystery of One Piece, you know?
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, Threevil, I would say we only got to do one Conqueror's Haki prompt. I'm kind of sad. Okay, the next one is a Conqueror's prompt.
I got more time. It's all up to you, bro.
You got
not to pressure you. Not to pressure you.
Absolutely. I was gonna say. I was actually about to ask you. Can we do one more? Because this last one is a Conqueror's prompt, so this will be one we can actually put a poll up for, and then we'll close it out there. All right, cool. Conqueror's Haki. Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks. One is your ally. You fight the other three. Choose.
Okay, which beard is it? Like which Whitebeard?
Which Whitebeard? Prime Whitebeard.
You said Prime Beard, Kaido, Shanks.
That's rough. That might be unbalanced. Would you say that's unbalanced? Would you rather old Kaido to make, or not old Whitebeard to make it balanced with the other three, or do you think?
No, I think even with Prime Beard it would be a hard fight, because against Shanks and Kaido, that's a very, and Big Mom, that'd be very difficult for Prime Beard to pull off. And like, I get it, Prime Beard neck and neck with Roger, but like Shanks and Kaido, like that's rough, dude.
The prompt doesn't say you have to win. It's just which one gives you the best chances. So that's yeah.
Yeah, so I think Prime Beard is stronger than Kaido, and the reason for that is Whitebeard's performance at Marineford, while having heart attacks, being stabbed, coughing up blood, and not being able to use Conquerors, was huge. So I'd imagine Prime Beard. Okay, so I'll look at it like this: Sick Beard was probably 10% at most, because he was hooked up to IV tubes, heart attacks, etc. I'd imagine Prime Beard's probably 10 times that, and I would put that way over Kaido, probably over Shanks. So I would probably take Prime Beard on my side.
Okay, Prime Beard's a good choice. I mean, in terms of just raw strength, he pretty much has everyone else here beat. I see your Prime Whitebeard. I raise you a Shanks, and the reason I raise you Shanks is because of the future sight that he potentially has been displaying. Like, from what we've seen, it seems like he can see a pretty decent bit into the future. We don't know how much. This ties into a whole other theory I had about him that so far seems to be lining up, where I thought that Shanks has like the best future sight in One Piece. The whole video was like about how everything that he's done up until now, and that seems like coincidence, is actually just he just saw it in advance, and he just went with the course of the future. So what I think is that out of all these 4 people here, Shanks probably, this might be my bias talking, but I feel like he has the best future sight out of these 4. And because of that, I feel like I have to team up with him, just because if anything were to happen to me, he'd see it in advance. And if he's my ally, he'll be able to protect me better than the other guys would. As opposed to having Shanks as my enemy, and then he can see further into, like, if he's the observation Haki killer, quote unquote, then whatever observation Haki these other guys have that they're going to use to protect me is not going to be valid against Shanks. I'm pretty sure if Shanks is my enemy, I'm dead. I just don't really see a way where I'm getting out of that okay. Kaido and Big Mom, I'll be real with you. Prime Beard, I feel like could handle Kaido and Big Mom no problem. Like, or not no problem, but I feel like I'd be able to maybe get out of that situation with my life. But once you throw like the third into the equation, like Shanks, who can like just cancel all that out with his future sight and stuff, man.
Yeah,
I got a team with him. So I'm gonna go with Shanks on that one.
It's tricky. It's tricky to scale Shanks with like Prime Beard and Roger. I feel that's something I need to toy with more because like again, like we know Roger was painted as number 1. So if Whitebeard was like neck and neck with Roger, you would have to figure that like they were close in attack potency, durability, combat speed, probably even future sight. They're probably like Prime Beard and Roger are probably relative, but how does Shanks stack up against it? I don't know. He has better future sight feats than both Prime Beard and Roger, it seems.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's like if the goal here is, you know, I'm picking someone that I have to duke it out with these other 3 monsters. I feel like the only advantage, if it's not going to be strength, the biggest advantage you have is going to be to avoid getting hit. And future sight helps you do that. At that point, I have to just go with the best future sight. Right?
Yeah. You know? The hit would be nasty though, because remember, like Shanks, you know, he scared off Green Bull and Admiral with his Haki, and I guess you could argue like Green Bull sensed the ships or whatever. But like, think about that and what like Whitebeard did. Again, like Whitebeard, I think everyone here can agree that Whitebeard having heart attacks, not being able to use Conqueror's Haki, being stabbed by Squard, and being hooked up to IV tubes, like he was severely like nerfed for Marineford. So if you take that nerfed Beard and you gave it a number like 1 to 100, I would probably give it a 10%, being hooked up to IV tubes and then immediately going into a war zone. So if I multiplied Sickbeard times 10, would that outweigh Shanks? And I think about how Sickbeard damn near one-shotted Aki Inu. So imagine if that Sickbeard was 10 times stronger, he could probably destroy Aki Inu just like how Shanks would probably destroy Aki Inu, or at least that old Aki Inu from Marineford.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because if we want to say like, yeah, like Whitebeard probably, I mean, realistically considering that Whitebeard was fighting against Roger on equal terms, and if Shanks is anything like Roger, Whitebeard has to have been able to keep up with that sort of like future sight, that sort of stuff. We saw Shanks holding his own against Akainu. We didn't see him bust Akainu, but a sickly Whitebeard gave him quite the beating. So yeah, it does stack in Whitebeard's favor there. I feel like pretty much my entire reasoning is just it's the future sight thing. I think
that's a good reason.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's like, man, it's hard to think of a way to beat that if someone can just see what you're gonna do next. That's why Katakuri was so intimidating, and the only way Luffy was really able to beat him was for his moves to be so fast, and that Katakuri couldn't actually react to all of them in time. With the Black Mamba, and then on top of that, Luffy was able to see the future too. So it's like only a fight fire with fire scenario. There's not really a way to, you know.
But I'll pass you something. Something in your favor is like Shanks is also the future sight killer, so that's a huge advantage as well.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, look, it looks like I haven't convinced anyone. Prime Beard is winning it, 58 to 42%. 3 of them, my man. I mean, we only have 36 votes, guys. We might need to get some more votes in here. Vote up, vote up. That's like only what is that? Like a fifth of the chat. Guys, let's get some votes going, and then we'll close out the stream. I think the reason they don't vote is they're not voting is because they don't want the stream to end. I think that's why. But yeah, it looks like you're coming out on top with this, man. So while that's running, I just want to say, now that we're finishing up the stream, man, thank you so much for being here today. Did you enjoy the whole format? I'd love to know your thoughts, because I
100%.
cool, man. Cool. Yeah.
I thought like the kind of competitiveness and like us giving our own answers to these hot questions was a great idea.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah, I was hoping the theory questions would be they get the brain, they get the juices going, they get the brain working.
Yeah.
That was the hope. All right, so the votes are rolling in. It looks like, man, yeah, you got it. You cooked me again. Very nicely done, bro. Very nicely done.
We got to get together again and like really sit down on some theory stuff. Like we just say, man, cut all the BS. Let's pick this one topic and let's just go ham on the theories and really get a conclusion. That'd be fun.
That's a great idea. Like I'm trying to think of like a way to make it work, but having like a topic of the stream where we have like a thing that has not been solved in the story, and we come into the stream with the intention of just trying to find an answer to this question. Like just blank slate, we walk into the stream, all right, what is X, Y, or Z? What's the reason for this? And we just like fire off ideas. That could be a really fun format. I'll be down to do that sometime, man.
100%. Same.
Yeah, dude. Well, I gotta hand it to you. You defeated me in the Conqueror's Clash, but it was absolutely, regardless of that, it was a pleasure to have you here, bro. I very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts. Guys, I hope all of you enjoyed the stream today. Thank you so much for all the super chats, all the great questions, all the gift memberships. I hope all of you guys that did get the gift memberships will be returning to some of the future streams. We'll be doing more Conquerors Clashes in the future, and me and Threevil will definitely, this is definitely not the last time we'll be here. So if you enjoyed the stream today, there's more where that's coming from. Brother, thank you once again for being here, and to everyone else, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful night. Before we go, if you want to just say anything on our way out, brother, I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh.
Goodbye, I guess, everybody. Blackbeard's an octopus. Hopefully the One Piece is inside of the core of the planet. All the agendas. Shiki, hopefully he returns. His plan is yet to be answered. Just all our theories. I appreciate everyone who came to the stream. This was easily one of my most favorite collabs I've done in a while. I really liked this kind of competitive, like this answer for answer format. Super fun. Very grateful for my boy Hidden Island doing this and just linking up together, man. It's been good. Hopefully I could have him on my channel at some point, and make sure everybody here subscribes to the boy. Bro, I'm down too. Just hell yeah. Everybody subscribe to this, man. Like the stream before you guys leave. Just leave a like on your way out. I'd appreciate that. But yeah, that's all, man.
All right, guys, you heard the man. Subscribe to Threevil. Subscribe to me. I will catch you guys on the next stream. I'll see you guys next time, and thanks for stopping by. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, a good night, and a fantastic romance dawn. Take care, everyone.